Welcome to the Nick and Matt Show, bringing the player interviews you want to hear and the hot topics you want to discuss. Recording live in studio, here's Nick and Matt.
Oh, this is kind of funny. So Nick's out of the studio. He got held up with work, and Intern Ben is out of studio. He's on vacation with his girlfriend's family. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but there you go. Maybe I won't tell the California. And then Evan. Yeah. Oh, you thought it was a green? You thought it was a green screen? That's funny. That's funny. So that's Ben traveling the world, and he still wants to join, and I think he still will join, but he's just gonna be not pushing buttons. So now I can control his appearance on screen. So episode 161, presented by Cosmic Disc Golf. Again, this is the place to go. You want to get paid to run tournaments. They're doing Cosmic Glow tournaments at Maple Hill very soon here. I just saw them post that for Maple Hill, out of New Jersey, but shipping discs and products around the country, maybe the world. I haven't tried that. Oh, and hold on a second. I'm glad someone texted me. They can't hear you, dude. Intern Ben, where are you? It's all right. They couldn't hear what you said, but I talk enough to cover for both of us anyways. So now they'll be able to hear.
Am I good now?
Yeah, they'll be able to hear you.
Okay. I was mouthing some things as a joke, but
it was
nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all a joke. You actually did it to them. No, what Evan was saying was he thought Intern Ben was just posting pictures for fun.
Yeah, we had that whole mountain debate about Mount Greylock and whatnot. So he posted, these are what mountains really are, and it was Yosemite. And I was like, okay, cool, Ben. Like, thanks for that debate. Didn't realize he was actually there, which now is much cooler.
Yes, it is cooler. So,
and I don't know if I should have said where he was. I mean, we're spoiling all sorts of things. He's not like, I don't know if he's still there.
He's going to be on in just a little bit here. Like
Yeah.
he'll be joining soon. He checked in a minute ago, and I think he'll be here. I don't know what his audio situation will be like, but he should be here. So yeah, again, presented by Cosmic. We're excited to be partnered up with them for this year, and who knows how long into the future, but great company there. And then shout out to my 3 boys. I have 4. Yes, I have 4. 3 of my sons competed in the same tournament this weekend. That's the first for me to have 3 competing. That involves more than just me. My wife has to be out there caddying, or at least being a guardian. And the first time ever for my 3rd oldest, 7-year-old Brady, went out there, and actually in his first tournament round ever, he shot a turkey. Not like hunting. He got 3 birdies in a row on portion of the course. I posted a video today of one of those. Incredible performance. Came down to the wire at the very end, and he ended up getting 2nd place. But that's incredible at your first tournament ever. So congrats, Brady.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and then Tanner won. I mean, it's hard to say I expect it because I don't want to overwhelm the kid, but he won and performed really well, averaging about 860 something rated golf for a 9-year-old. Not bad. And Hunter, going into the last round, like, I think he shot himself in the foot, went out like 5 over through the first 4 holes on the 2nd round, and ended up coming back, getting an eagle with 3 holes left to play.
Ooh.
And only one to do that. And then going into the last hole was tied. He pushed it all the way back down to the last hole, and he said he threw his worst approach shot of his life, and he got a bogey. So he ended up getting 2nd.
Yeah. Got to him.
He's listening to you now, Evan. He's probably like, ah.
Yeah. Well, Hunter, that round sounds a lot like, the first half at least sounds a lot like me. So remember, you just have to beat me next time.
There you go. So shout out to my kids. I like to do that. I'm a proud dad. But tonight's episode is jam-packed. I think we must say this often, but tonight we have lined up Ricky Wysocki, we've got Missy Ganon, and we have a friend of the show, someone who spent some time in my backyard with a camera. I know it sounds weird. Anthony Bodanza. If you're a fan of Bodanza Disc Golf on YouTube, you know he's a great guy. If you're not a fan, get over there and subscribe. Excellent content, including the round in my backyard, the tournament round we did with Ganon and Cole and Evan and Ben and lots of cool people back there. You can check it out. So, almost through all this like talkity talk, and we'll get to, what you thought of this weekend, Evan, for the Pro Tour. If I come off as a little bit like tired or confused, it's because at about 3:45 a.m. today this is Monday, right? See, I'm confused. I hear rap, tap, tap on my front door at 3:40. What do you do at 3:45 in the morning when someone's tapping on your front door? You think someone either needs help, like legitimately, or someone's, drunk and confused. And I don't know if I want to, handle that. So I get out, I'm like groggy in the middle of the night, and I go to the front door and I look out through the window because I'm peeking out the window of the door. I'm not just opening it up. And I see a police officer, and I'm like, it's this weird feeling of like, okay, good, but also why? Like, why? So I cracked the door and I'm like, hello. And he's like, hey, we're investigating some break-ins up the street, and we noticed your vehicle's door was ajar, as in it was open. And I'm like, I'm like 3:45 a.m. You're waking me up to tell me my vehicle's broken into. Like, it's nice. Like, what do you do? He can't just drive away. He doesn't want to shut your door. He's got to let you know. So it's 3:45. I walk outside. It starts raining on me. It's like, this is great. I couldn't fall back asleep for a long time. I want to say this. I actually don't think it was broken into. This is the kicker of the story. I think when we got back from the tournament yesterday evening, one of my children forgot to shut the door. And I hit lock, and it either didn't tell me a door was left open or whatever. I think that's the scenario. Nothing was taken. Nothing was stolen. And so I'm happy with that. But that's my morning. That's how it started. I couldn't fall back asleep. It's a long day training people and all that. And here we are talking some more. So all of that being said, Evan, I think intern Ben just joined. And Ben, it's somewhat noisy there. I'm going to try to figure out your audio for you, see if I can throw a filter on there for noise suppression, possibly. It's pretty, it's like windy. Maybe when you talk, it'll get better. So keep talking
like
for us.
Background white noise type of deal.
Talk, Ben. We can hear you. Nobody else can. All right. Well, they can't hear you, but I'll bring you in. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. And now unmuted. Boom. All right. Intern Ben, everybody.
What up? How we doing?
I think it's pretty good now.
I'll go inside if you need me to.
I think it's probably acceptable.
I like the backdrop personally. So
that's what I'm saying.
I think you should stay there. Are you in Puerto Rico or where are you at?
California. Yeah, so I'm in Cali, nice poolside. It's on a green screen. So
yes,
that's why I had
pull the green screen down. Oh wait, someone just walked through your green screen.
Who's that? Who just walked? I think that was the neighbors. What the heck?
Okay. The neighbors.
And they go inside.
Okay, so I think your audio level is fine. We're going to leave you up. If you cause trouble, boom, out you go. But you're good for now. You were getting awards in the chat tonight for Intern of the Year.
I saw Intern of the Year. I love, and it made me feel good that Evan was muted at first because it made me know that my job is very secure. So I was very happy about that, to see that.
Oh man, yeah. So
there's
a few
the
things.
Show's doing bad.
Yeah, it's job security. It's kind of one of those things where your true colors show. You're like, I'm just kidding. All right. So we talked a lot about random things. But let's get into some disc golf talk. The Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships tour finale, the tour championship took place, and there's a lot to break down there, but we got Ricky coming on in about 9 minutes. So we'll talk to him about, how it went down for him. But Evan, tell us what you have for a recap on this. I know it's not massive.
Yeah. I mean, this tournament's interesting. The format's changed throughout the years. This year, we talked about it last episode. I'm not going to go into too deep, but there was a stroke advantage to the first 2 rounds, cut, scores reset, and then essentially a 2-round tournament to decide the winner. And Ricky Wysocki made the cut and then played lights out, going out for the win. It's his 3rd tour championship win of his career. That's the most of any player in either division. There is a big way tie for 2 before Ricky got this. We'll talk about that later. But Ricky Wysocki wins $40,000 with this win, which is the most prize cash from one single event in PDGA history. Of course, Missy Ganon also matching that. They both earned $40,000. Missy Ganon wins an FPO if that wasn't clear already, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Ricky Wysocki has now won back-to-back tour championships. He becomes the first back-to-back winner since Chris Dickerson did it in 2018 and 2019. Dickerson notably did it in two different venues. He did it when it was in Florida, and then the first year it was in North Carolina. Ricky is, I guess, the first to do it in back-to-back venues, if you want to categorize it that way. Ricky Wysocki pretty much doubles his season earnings with this win. He was at around $43,000 for the season. Prior to this, of course, he had the slow start, some DNFs, didn't play all the events, but he still, won a Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite event, a silver event, had lots of other good finishes, finished fourth in Pro Tour points overall. So to pretty much double his tournaments with this win is pretty incredible. It's, like I said, it's also his third tour championship win. All three of those have been since his last major victory, which I find pretty fascinating. His last major was June of 2017. He won the tour championship later that year in 2017, and then in back-to-back years. He's won, I believe, I have it right here, 13 Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite events in that time frame as well. 3 national tours for a total of 16 standard elite, 19 if you include the tour championship, and he also has 4 silver wins in that time frame.
Wow.
Moving down the leaderboard in NPO real quick before hitting Missy Ganon, Kyle Klein finishes in second, which is an incredible, week and a half for that guy, winning the USDGC, his first major of his career, of his pro career, excuse me. He won $30,000 last week. He wins $22,000 this week. That's $52,000 in a single month in October, but really a week and a half. That's the most PDGA prize cash any player has ever won in a single month in PDGA history. He's the first person to break 50,000 in a single month. Sorry, excuse me there. It would very cool to see. Great record for him and a great showing. We won't talk about the drop picks quite yet, but yeah, he was my drop pick. And then to round out the podium in NPO, Calvin Heimburg finishes third. He's had 14 podiums on the season. We'll talk about him when we talk about Player of the Year, because he's certainly in the running along with Isaac Robinson, but he only had one finish outside the top 10 all season. Matt, any thoughts in NPO before swinging over to FPO?
It's good to see Kyle Klein kind of back up a good weekend, and it makes you kind of start to wonder. Or I say a good week, good recency here. It makes you start to wonder what it is about the end of the season, or it's the courses, but you see some courses like this throughout tour. But here's the thing with him. I'm just picking on him. He was kind of injured this year. So it's possible that he's just coming into full swing, and it's where he would be, all year had he not had those back issues. I think it was back. So yeah, that was good to see. And then we're going to get to the picks that we did, I know, but the Ricky Wysocki pick, I'm pretty sure Nick did pick. And then last second, it was like, no, that's a horrible pick. And he went with Simon. We'll talk about that. But no, not much more else to say. I mean, Adam Hammes, I could go on and on, but there was a lot of cool storylines.
Yeah, quickly on Adam Hammes. He was, I think, 6 strokes out of the cut line after round 1, when factoring in the stroke advantage as well. He ended up shooting at the time, course record of 8 down, bogey-free. If you could believe it, it was his first bogey-free round since March. He had 4 in March, but one of them includes the Memorial. But he had 2 at Waco and 1 at the Open at Austin. Hadn't had a single bogey-free round the rest of the season until this week, which, talk about a time to have it. He works himself all the way up into the cut line. I believe he said that might have been one of the best rounds of his career, or at least the season, to earn that into the cut. He plays pretty solid. I think he finished tied for 4th. In the leaderboard. Yes. So a fantastic finish, earned $9,500, which is, I think, $7,000, more than if he missed the cut. So talk about a good round to earn that amount of cash. That is pretty much how would you make for winning a Disc Golf Pro Tour Elite event most of the time. So great finish by him. I'll bring it over to FPO now. Missy Ganon wins her second tour championship of her career. It's been Matt. You were asking about this. I heard it too. She is not the first FPO player to win the tour championship twice. Katrina Allen has done it before. I believe 2016 and 2018 or 19. I could double check in a second, but she has won it twice before. Missy Ganon has tied that. Chris Dickerson has also won it twice, and at the time of Missy Ganon winning, Ricky Wysocki only had won it twice.
The reason I bring it up is because I saw multiple places, including Brian Earhart, just mentioning, like, I think he said first ever to win back-to-back. I don't even think it I'm not saying this is on him. He gets fed information or he does what he's told. It's kind, you ever watch Anchorman? Like, I'm Ron Burgundy. Like, yes, you are. You don't have to ask a question. He's just reading a teleprompter. So I'm not like placing this on Brian per se. I've said stupid things on here too that I want to take back. But when I heard it just objectively, I'm like, what? Like, I even non-FPO, like, I was like, maybe they meant FPO, but then, yeah, it doesn't make sense for even FPO. And then I was like, not ever. Like, Chris Dickerson did it. And like, so it was interesting to hear. That's why I brought it up to you. I'm like, can you just verify this for me? I'm pretty sure. Like, why did they say that? So anyways, there you go.
Yeah, it was 2016 and 2019. 2019 being the first year that Charlotte hosted the tour championship. It was previously in Florida and Vermont before that. Katrina Allen won in Vermont, which it was the first year of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. It was held right after GMC. It had kind of a weird feeling. That was the season before I really picked up disc golf, so I don't have a total big feel of it. But yeah, Katrina Allen did historically win two prior. But back to Missy Ganon, $40,000, of course, being the highest payout for a single event in PDGA history. It marks Missy Ganon's highest career payout. Her next two highest payouts of her career are at the Tour Championship the past two seasons. The second best is from her win in 2021 when she won 30 grand, and her third best is from last season when she finished third place and earned 14,000. She has earned the nickname Big Money Missy and has backed it up all season long. If you remember Ledgestone, that was a big driving factor, but not driving factor, excuse me, a driving story or headline, and Ledgestone being a big purse. The Disc Golf Pro Tour is a bigger purse, and Missy Ganon sure backed it up. Owen Scoggins, though, put on a run for her money. She was leading through the first two rounds going into the reset, was leading after the first round after the reset, but unfortunately had a bad final round. Ben's doing some cry emojis. 3 over for Owen Scoggins. She, of course, really wanted this win. I mean, the money means a lot, and that's what she values, which credit to her. I value that as well. Funny enough, if the scores didn't reset, I pulled the numbers here, and we can talk about it more later as we talk about the format, but do want to say it real quick. If the scores didn't reset and there still was the stroke advantage, Owen Scoggins would have ended at 11 down, 4 better than Missy Ganon. Missy Ganon was 2 over through the first 2 rounds before resetting. Owen Scoggins was 6 down. That's just their play alone, not including the advantage. So interesting there, but of course we know what the format was going into it. And lastly, a tie in fourth between Kristen Tatar and Haley King. Kristen Tatar having an incredible season. Of course, she was the reigning champion. Her 4th place finish is one of the worst of the season for her, but that's to say it in light of what an incredible season it was. It's only the 4th time she has finished outside of the top 2 this entire year. Haley King, being a previous winner of this event back in 2021, she earned $9,000 along with Kristen Tatar. So not the highest cash of Haley King's career, but a very nice paycheck, of course.
Absolutely. And if you're wondering, I'm multitasking 10 times over when Ben's gone, and then we've got guests coming in. So it's tough to do all of this at one time. So, but that being said, Ricky, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Can you hear me? All right, he can hear us. So let's just do this. Let's jump in because he's here and he's ready, and let's bring him in. Everybody, welcome to the show, Ricky Wysocki. Boom. It's like he's the, what do we call it? Oh, Ben, you're in here. Cool. So, boom. What is Ben? 3, 2, 1. There we go. Ricky, what's up, man? Just like that, you joined the show while you're traveling 70 miles an hour down the road. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. So
Okay.
you win in epic fashion as you typically do. You're very, how do I put it? You're fun to watch. The excitement is real. And I'm jumping right to the finale. You win $40,000, something you've never done in your life, ever. Not at one time that I'm aware of. You got a salary, we know that, but like a one-time $40,000 check. This is a first for you. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So to answer your first question, you're kind of saying like how, I feel like I play with a lot of energy. That's a good word for it. I play with a lot of emotion. I play with a lot of energy, and I feel like I feed off the crowd, and I also fuel the crowd to clap for me and like explode with emotion when I make a big shot. And I feel like that's the closest thing that comes to home court advantage in disc golf, is getting the crowd behind you and making that 60-footer with 3 holes left and puts you up 2 strokes. Like that's like Steph Curry hitting a 3, with 20 seconds left in the game, and puts his team up by 2 points. Like it's not over, but like that's just one of the moments that make the tournament that much closer to winning. And so I think that just me sharing my emotion with the crowd, they love it and they feed off it as well. And I think that that's, sometimes it can be bad playing with high emotions and stuff like that, because when it's not going your way, you obviously, I take full credit for my bad play, but also when I'm playing good, I'm there to win. And I think that's just something that's just part of my personality.
That's an interesting thought you brought up. I'm going to try to circle back around to that. But so then you take it and you get that big check, dude. Like this is a first and only for you, or not, maybe not only, hopefully not only, but first at this point in your career. What is that like? Nobody else had done it in the MPO. Missy had only done it just a little bit prior to that. What does that feel like?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It really is amazing. And it definitely, I mean, as everybody knows, pressure is a crazy thing. Pressure and nerves are totally real. And when you got that much money on the line, it's a whole nother ballgame. It's those gaps out at Nevin they seem to get smaller. For me, luckily, when I'm under pressure, I think the biggest thing for most players is you got to lean into your strength. My strength has always been coming down the stretch. I feel like I make big putts, and I think that's something that I'm just really good at. I'm really good at calming my nerves, calming the pressure for those big moments, and just taking full advantage of it. And I think that's why when I do execute those shots, I let all that out, because it's like I know that if I make that putt, it's not, the tournament's obviously not over, so I'm not pumped that I won yet, but I'm pumped that it's setting me up for the win to make it a higher percentage win. But yeah, to answer your question a little bit more, yeah, the pressure is a lot more when there's 40,000 on the line. We're going to be on ESPN, so that's another thing you're thinking about. Like, hey, I want to put on a good performance so I can showcase my skills to the world. So there's the money standpoint. There's the, hey, I want to show the world what I got, what disc golf has to offer. And for me, being a face of the sport, I want to go out there and represent the sport as a whole in a great way, and play with intensity, play with emotion, and just be genuine, be myself. And that's what I feel like I showcased this week.
You mentioned big putts, so I want to talk about the biggest one, hole 16, elevated basket, 75 feet away, and you just cash that thing and have all the energy in the world running up to it. Talk us through walking up to that putt, the confidence level you had. Was it like a heat check type of moment? Was it you just knew you would make it no matter what? Tell us about it.
Yeah, actually it wasn't. I mean, my first thought was like, for a split second, I was like, all right, can I lay up? And then that kind of just completely went out of my mind. I'm like, no, I can't lay up. I'm only up 1. I was up 2 at that point. Kyle was pretty much parked. I'm giving him he's making that. I mean, he's a good putter. He's putting good all day, and he's 20 feet. So I got to count that as in. And so I'm walking up, and I'm also thinking ahead. So I'm playing through the scenarios of going through 17, going through 18. There's strokes to be had on those 2 holes. There's lots of out of bounds. There's a tight gap off 17 that you have to hit. And if you don't hit it, it could pretty much be an automatic bogey potentially, because of how hard that gap is. And if you miss it, it's hard to recover. There's really it's the type of hole where you get through the gap and you have a birdie or par, or you miss it and you get a bogey, or potentially worse because it can get some bad kicks. But anyways, I was just thinking about those holes, and I want to be set up. Obviously, I put myself in that situation. I want to take full advantage and win. So I'm thinking like, hey, I gotta get an extra stroke. And looking back at it, that putt on 16, obviously I knew it was huge for the moment, and it obviously, looking at the leaderboard at the end, it looks like that one stroke was what did it. Obviously, the way when you're playing to win, it comes down to the last hole. A lot of times, it did yesterday. But I mean, that's what having those two strokes and that putt on 16 does for you, is you can play a little bit safer and force aggression on the person you're battling against. Like with Kyle, I kind of forced him to go for it, and then from there, after I saw that he went out of bounds, I could play a lot more safe. But yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is, like I said, just hitting that putt and just clutching up and hitting that, and then knowing that that's setting me up to be able to play safe and play for a double bogey, which is what I did on 18, which is what I would never normally do that unless it's for the win.
Yeah, well, to talk about 18 real quick, that shot that ended up being a laser beam right into the woods, was your game plan to try to lay it up? Was that a misfire? And when it came out of your hand, did you, like, maybe it was your intention, but when it came out of your hand, did you think it was going to go way in the woods? Like, to me, when I was watching it on TV, I thought it was going to go flying in the woods, but you ended up being right in the rough. So talk us through that plan.
Yeah, I mean, so all week I had been blasting my driver, going through the gap and throwing great shots, and I was setting myself up for an easy pars and even birdie looks. But in a situation like that, there is a lot of OB that I bring into play by throwing that shot. So I decided to lay down and throw a mid-range. I threw a trust, and that just set me back. So I was basically just playing for par. I wasn't going for the birdie. But what that also did is I never practiced a layup. So that was kind of my mistake. So I wasn't familiar with the distances and my distance control, which normally that's as a professional, you go through the course, you play, all the different layup spots, all the different go for it spots, so that way you can have those situations dialed in and have it in the back of your memory. Like, hey, if I lay up and I'm up 2 strokes on this hole, I know what I'm going to do. And for some reason didn't do that. And so I just was in between shots. And so the indecisiveness just made me throw longer than I wanted because I didn't want to throw short. So because I knew if I throw it short, I'm going to hit the boards and be OB and having to essentially almost rethrow because the way the out of bounds is placed. And so I wanted to be long because I'm at least safe. I'm in the woods, but at least I can scramble to potentially get a bogey if I have to. And so, yeah, I just basically misgauged the distance because I didn't practice it. And yeah, I got kind of lucky to not go further in the woods. But I mean, that was kind of what I said, that was kind of my play. I wasn't trying to throw it in the woods, but I was just trying to err on the side of long and still being safe. I'd rather be safe in the woods than short on the bound.
Yeah, great insight. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, I know this isn't a clinic, and I know I'm at the top of my game no matter what you say, but you were hitting some really fantastic large putts, and that's not unusual for you. We've watched your game for a long time, but can you just tell me, because I just had this thought, where are you aiming at a point in midair, or are you literally imagining the whole flight and saying it's going to dunk at the end? Or are you thinking, there's the basket, I'm just going to feel it and just send it out? Like, what is your thought when you're hitting those big putts?
I'm kind of a combination of feel. I'm a very feel putter. That's really my thing. I'm a feel, but I also have a move with my putt that I know if I do that, I see the basket, I take a couple seconds to see my distance, how far I am away, and I see where I want to release my putter, and I have a little bit of hyzer at the end of my putts. So I know that, hey, my putter is going to hyzer X amount, so I got to release, especially when I'm 75 feet away. Yeah. I'm not just going to putt dead straight at it, So, and I like to have kind of an arcing putt. And so I'm a very, like I said, I'll take a second to register how far the distance is. And then I make sure that, hey, if I do, if I extend my arm and engage my wrist to get the spin, then that's kind of where the feel comes in. I know if I do my form right, that my feel is going to take over after that. And that's what's going to allow me to gauge the distance correctly. And so I feel like that's why I'm succeeding under pressure, is because I know what I need to do. Obviously, being 75 feet away. I'm not going to make that putt every time, but it's just all about percentages. I feel like I make a lot of them in the big moments because like I said, I know what works for me and what's worked in the past. And so that's something I can refer back to and really know, hey, this is what works for me. This is what I'm going to do. And obviously, sometimes, being under pressure and nerves, it can cause you to do weird stuff and throw off your form, throw off your mental game, kill your confidence because you're doing things that you may not normally do. But yeah, so to answer yours, I think I'm a little bit of both, a little bit of a feel putter and a little bit of like focusing a little bit on my form with my wrist action at the end to get the spin on the putt.
Cool. And so this is me circling back to what you brought up in the very beginning, talking about how sometimes emotions, you got to handle them one way or another, whether it's going bad or it's going great. But the interesting perspective is when it's going bad, it seems like obviously you're going to try to, whether it's internalize it or try to just accept it and move on. It seems to me like you usually capitalize on the positive energy though. And it seems to me like you take it to the next level, which maybe you figured out how to capture that and use it, like you said, to your advantage. Do you feel that way? You're like, dude, I'm playing good. Let me keep this hype train going. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah. And I think that's very unique to me. I like a lot of players, like Calvin's an absolutely amazing player. He's just different. He's wired different.
Right.
And that's kind of athletes and that's sports. People, some people might relate with him or me. It just depends on who they like. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, the way I am is if I'm in a slump or if I got something that's not working, I'm going through the course and I'm just my game doesn't feel good. I'm not scoring. I always tell myself like I'm just waiting for that one moment. Like I call it momentum. Everyone hears me talk about that, but to expand on that a little bit more, that momentum comes from that one shot, that 175-foot putt, or that throw in, or that sick drive on a really hard hole that like gets you pumped up, gets the crowd cheering, and that's the moment where I kind of snap in, like, all right, sweet, I got the momentum. Now it's time to get the ball rolling. Kind of start the snowball effect in a good way. Start that snowball of momentum instead of having a snowball of bad emotions. Like, hey, I keep getting bad tree kicks. I keep doinking putts. That can snowball in a negative way. But for me, when I have that one shot that sparks me in a positive way, it snowballs. Hey, another long putt, another good drive. And so I just feel like that's why the momentum is so important for me when I'm playing well.
Do you feel like for you as a player, and I often get so many caveats to my questions, so I'm not going to this time. As a player, do you feel like you think there's an advantage also to being that hyped? Do you think that plays into an advantage for you when other players are seeing that? Is there any strategy to that?
I mean, it's something that I've definitely noticed over the years. It's not something I'm doing intentionally. It's all my emotions and stuff that come out are completely genuine. Like I'm just excited. And I think another thing is that I see moments in tournaments and I know when there's turning points in events. Like that final round, Kyle got it back to even and then I got 2 strokes on him. And then he was starting to pull back again. Then I, gained a stroke on 15 to put it to 2 strokes. And then for me to keep that stroke on 16, that's 2 strokes was so much bigger. I mean, my winning percentage probably went from, I don't know, 50% to 80 or 90% with that 2 strokes at the end. So it was a huge jump in, percentage of me winning. And I knew that. I could feel that at the moment. Like 1 stroke ain't nothing. As you saw, like on 18, Kyle went out of bounds. I went out of bounds. There's a 2-stroke swing we had no problem. Like Kyle could have, obviously it didn't happen, but Kyle threw a great shot. And he could have hit the green and had a chance for a 3. And that was very possible. So just the fact that I can see those moments happening before they happen, like how important certain putts or certain events in a tournament are. I think that's something that is to my advantage for sure. And also to expand on it is I feel like it almost like it sucks energy from the crowd, like pumping me up and pumping, after I hit a 6 shot, it kind of like, it's hard. It's a lot harder to execute a shot after that. If I'm hitting a 75-footer, Kyle's got a 20-footer after the crowd just went nuts. Like, that's kind of the home court advantage type thing. Like nobody's cheering, not that nobody's cheering for him, but it's like, it's hard to keep up with that,
Yeah.
And I think I heard Kyle in an interview saying that after hole 16, he felt a little deflated, which like I said, it's, it's all that momentum, all that energy. It's a real thing. And that's why home field advantage in sports is an advantage. It really is.
Ricky, how do you rate this season as a whole for you as Ricky Wysocki? And I ask this in two ways. One, how do you rate it as in going into All-Star break before you had the wrist flare up? And then how do you rate it going into, let's say, the Northwest swing when you still hadn't had a win, but you were coming back? As in, what were your, like, if you had the Tour Championship, an elite win, and a silver win at different points, how would you rate that as a Ricky Wysocki season?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was, for me, a lot of the, events I wasn't really feeling 100%. Like, I was able to play, perform, and, I was out there doing my best, obviously trying to win as much as I can, and just nothing really clicked at a lot of the events. And I still was able to I guess it was the type of season where it's a salvage season. Like, I played well. I had some very consistent finishes. I had a lot of top 10s in big events, which obviously, I'm trying to win. But, nowadays top 10s are solid. Like, it's hard to get top 10s at events. And so when you do,
Okay. We lost Rick for a second. We'll wait till he kind of links back up here. I'm finding this actually intriguing to this point. Everything you're asking and some of the insight he's giving me with momentum, saying that he can see it. I think it's in his head when he hit that 75-footer on 16 and he says, Kyle's like, nobody's cheering. He's like, well, maybe not nobody's cheering. He's like, but he knows it. He's like, oh, look at this. I just got all the crowd's enthusiasm, right? Like, I sucked it out of everybody. And now, like, Kyle's like, I'm burnt, Yeah.
And it's another thing. Like, it's not just the crowd. It's Kyle's pushing for it, and he's not getting an inch from Rick. He throws that shot, and he's practically parked, in Rick's words. And Ricky's outside of both circles. Remember, it doesn't even count for putting where Ricky was from. And so Kyle's like, oh, sweet. Like, I got a stroke on Ricky. Like, I'm one stroke back going into 17, and anything can happen, as Ricky was saying. And he doesn't get it. That's so deflating. I think we all know that. And so that's the pressure of making a big putt. And then you add in the crowd, and I totally agree with that as well, that can drain a lot out of you.
I had one more question, and I know he was wrapping up your question, and let's see if he's able to join back here in a second. I can see some of the tech stuff moving and changing, but I don't hear him or see him. So let's see. Anyway, so again, multitasking, lots of things here. I do want to ask, and maybe you guys can talk about it for just a second, because I'm going to get him on through a phone call here, is you saw how hole 18 played out, and was there any I don't know what the right word is, reminiscing about throw pink, hole 18, disc that possibly never came in bounds, and hole 18 with the MPO here, the disc that possibly never came in bounds, and how they played it out, and Jeff Spring's involvement pretty quickly. And like, I think everyone's a little sensitive to it. Did you have any takeaway on that? I'm going to try to call Rick up here, so he might interrupt us, but what do you think?
Ben, I'll leave this to you. I was watching on mute, so a little bit harder for me to kind of get the whole feel of it.
Were you watching, Ben?
But Ben, you might have not been watching because you're out in California.
Yeah, I data the whole weekend.
Okay, so what I'm going to try to do then is call him up directly.
Audio-wise,
Okay, I'm calling him, and we'll see here when he answers if he can give us that answer himself. The beauty of a live show, I'll tell you what. Hey, Ricky, can you? Oh, no, Ricky yet. I thought he answered. The phone's ringing still.
Hello?
Hey, Ricky, can you hear us?
Hey, yeah, can you hear me? How's my audio?
It is great, Rick. It's good to talk to you again.
Good.
Actually,
Okay,
check this out, Ben. Woo, look at this little button on the phone with Ricky Wysocki. Okay, so, okay, when you talk, we get a little voice wave that says we're on the phone with you, which is wonderful. So do you want to finish up the question? Do you remember what Evan asked you, or do you want to get on to another question?
Yeah. So I'll answer that. So, yeah, I mean, obviously starting in the beginning of the season, I was hurt. Like you said, my wrist was flared up, and it took me a while to recover from that. Even the tournaments I came back, I wasn't fully 100% healthy. And so the first, I would say, half of the season that I was playing, like Portland and that stretch, I wasn't, fully ready to go. And even like preserve, like my wrist wasn't 100%. I was able to play through it. And obviously I won the tournament, and there was a lot of positives there. But yeah, I just never really got in a groove. Like when you're on tour and you play a long season, you go through ebbs and flows where you'll go through like couple, 3 or 4 good weeks in a row. You're playing well. Maybe get 1 or 2 wins in a row. And then, sometimes you might go through a little slump and then come back. And there's always ebbs and flows. And I just felt like I never really got on a stretch of a season where I like 1, 2, or 3 events in a row, which I do normally. That's what I do. And so that's, I think, partly because I started the season so late and I didn't play as many events and never had that time to get in that groove. But yeah, to rate it, I would say probably like a B- season for my standards. Probably a B-. The Pro Tour Finals helped a lot. I really did play at a high level this last week, and I'm very proud of that. And yeah, B-.
Well, that's good. That's good insight from the player himself. So when you dropped off, I said I kind of had one more question, and it's how 18 unfolded in the sense that a week prior, and nobody was really immune to the drama of how hole 18 played for throw pink last week, with a disc possibly not being in bounds or ever crossing in bounds, how the players played it out according to the rules. And then we come into the last round at the championship here, MPO, and Kyle throws over out of bounds. And from perspective where you were standing, what was your immediate reaction? It looked like everyone was pretty sensitive to this fact that we got to get this call right, including we saw Jeff Spring even walk over at one point. So from your perspective, where he was throwing from, what was your initial perspective?
So, all right. So here's how it went. So he threw the shot. He threw the shot and he got the red flag, and obviously we're all looking at the shot. And so I'm yelling across the course, like to the spotter, like, "Hey, did he cross up there, or did he cross like back here? Where should he play from?" He's like, "Oh no, yeah, he was like saying he made the Mando," and so I took that as like, "Oh, he crossed up there." So obviously we're gonna take the spotter's, insight if he's closer to the disc than we are. But he meant that he made the Mando, not that he made it ever cross in bounds. So that was the initial mix-up at first. Was we thought he crossed up by the green, but he said it wasn't even close. He just meant he made the Mando. But so then after that, we kind of, we saw where the disc was, and we saw like the flight of the disc, and then we determined like, hey, there's really, based on the shape of the out of bounds and the shape of his shot, it was almost impossible for him to have crossed inbounds. So we basically all determined like, hey, yeah, he didn't cross. And so then from there, we basically were just like, all right, he played his shot from out of bounds, and it wasn't nearly as close. Kyle's shot wasn't nearly as close as Holland's shot last week. Holland's was obviously super close. It almost hit on the line as far as the out of bounds and inbounds. Kyle's wasn't nearly that close. It was pretty obvious that it had never crossed.
And I think the fact, and you talked about this when I first asked you about $40,000, when there's $40,000 on the line, it seemed like I've never seen you as adamant about a call before. As you said, you were yelling across because that 100% determined how you were playing your next shot, correct?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it would change the whole tournament. And then, like I said, initially we were walking up the fairway like he had crossed up there, because when I first talked to the spotter, he was like, yeah, just his hand signals and the way he was talking, he made it sound like he crossed up by the green. So I was like, all right, like whatever he says, we're going to do, because he was literally right there. He could tell. And obviously a lot of the spotters are officials and stuff as well. So, 9 times out of 10, the spotter is right and they see like what's going on and they're honest. So yeah, I was ready to give him the call and give him the mark up by the green, if that's what the spotter said. But like I said, we had the miscommunication that he was saying that he made the Mando, not that he crossed in bounds. And so that's kind of, once we walked up to talk to him, he's like, no, like that never crossed. And so then that was when we basically, Kyle had to go back and rethrow basically.
Yeah. And then that explains a lot, and that's exactly how it looked like it unfolded, and now from your perspective, it's even better. But Jeff Spring came over. It's not often that a tournament director or the CEO of the tour itself comes over. Was he offering insight too for clarification?
Yeah, I think he was just trying to get a legit call and talking to the spotter. The cool thing is that spotter had been following us around all day. He was really good. He's a really good spotter. He's always at the USDGC as well, so he's got a lot of experience. And so I feel like that spotter alone has a lot of street cred with me for sure, just because I've seen him around USDGC and I know him pretty well. But yeah, like I said, I think it has to do with the Holland call last week, how close that was. you know, that's playing a role. The $40,000, you want to make sure you make the right call. You don't want anything, you know, as much as I want to win, I want it also to be fair. You know, if Kyle crossed up there, that's where he crossed. You know, that's where he's going to play his shot. And that's why we have spotters, and sometimes it's hard to tell. Because like if it was us, we could have potentially just gave him it up there because it looked like he may have crossed. People got to realize we don't have replays. You know, like on DGN, you may be able to wind it back and see, hey, look, it looks like he crossed, or looks like she didn't cross, like in Holland's case. But in real time, it's a whole different ballgame. You know,
we even get the drone replays now. That's incredible. And you don't have to speak for Kyle, but what was Kyle's reaction when the spotter or you guys were making that call? Was it simply like, okay, yeah, that's correct? Or did he try to make any like judgment of, no, I think I was in?
No, I think Kyle was very, very professional, as he always is. He's a great competitor and great person. And so I don't think he was really trying to finagle a call. He was just trying to simply get the spotter's initial thoughts on like, hey, did I cross or did I not?
Yep.
And so I think I'm sure he was upset, obviously, because that's basically was the end of the tournament. Essentially, once his disc went out of bounds, that was pretty much it. But I think he was, he was still, you know, with Calvin playing a good round, he still wanted to get up and down and try to get second, I'm sure. But he was, I'm sure internally he was very upset that he didn't execute that shot.
Yeah.
But he also had to still finish the next shot. He's still throwing 400 feet over out of bounds. Like that
True.
That can add up a lot if you keep throwing a couple out of bounds.
True. And for how crazy this is, Statmando, this could be the first time ever that a throw came down to $18,000 difference, right? I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it literally was.
Wow. I'm like, where are we at in disc golf now? We're like the most expensive throw ever, $18,000. And you kind of wonder, Kyle's not on here right now, but like you kind of wonder, that had to be going through his head. But so you take it down again. It was epic. It was big. You get handed this massive trophy. Is that the biggest trophy that the Pro Tour's ever given away that you remember?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's up there with the Preserve, the Bear trophy. The Preserve trophy, the Bear is heavier, but
it stays there, right? The Bear stays at the course.
Yeah. So that trophy, this trophy is luckily going home with me. So that's going to be going up in the trophy room right next to last year's trophy. So that's super cool. I think it's a really cool trophy. It's weirdly shaped. It's kind of like crooked a little bit, it looks like, but that's kind of how it was designed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very unique. I mean, the dude that made the trophy was like all pumped. Oh, I'm so glad you got to take the trophy and all that stuff. So yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah, that bend in it was not on purpose, but they said, let's roll with it. We got nothing else to do. It was on purpose. No, I'm kidding.
Right, yeah.
It's like, never mind. My mom used to make wedding cakes as part of her profession. And right before a wedding, like right before the reception, the 3-tiered cake with like bridges coming off it and juice fountains and everything, it fell over. They went down.
Yeah.
It fell over. She about had a heart attack. She went down to this cake decorating store, got a fake cake and literally stacked it up, dusted it off. And they said, here it is, like for pictures. And I was laughing. Man. You never know what happens with the trophies. Like there's a bend in it. We're going with it. It's on purpose. Artistic design. But no, that's cool, dude. That's cool.
Yeah. So
Ricky, cool. You had my parents there too. Go ahead.
Oh, very cool. No, that's all good. I appreciate the extra insight. I wanted to go into the top 10 that you posted last week after the USDGC, and curious if anything would change after the Tour Championship. Just to recap, you had the top. I'll just go through the top 5 at least. You had Calvin Heimburg, Isaac Robinson, Eagle McMahon, yourself, and then Ganon Burr. Would you change up that top 5 at all after this win and maybe a performance from Kyle Klein, or is there anything else you think would change?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Kyle's 2 tournaments in a row, playing, first and second. That's very impressive. So I think I'd bump him up. I think him and Ganon would be right there. I think right there battling for the 5th spot, I would say. Calvin's just so consistent, and I think that his consistency week in and week out, I think people will start to realize how hard that is in years to come. But the fact that he gets top 5 literally almost every week is insane. That's so impressive. Even this week, he found a way to come back and get 3rd. You know, like, so I mean, that's a storyline that people don't really talk about that is so impressive. And as an athlete and someone that strives to be consistent at the highest level, I totally respect that, and that's why I feel like Calvin is where he is. He doesn't take weeks off. He doesn't have a bad week where he gets like 20th or 30th. It just doesn't really happen. And whereas you players like Ganon and even myself, every once in a while, I'll slip in get a 20th place here and there. So that's my reasoning behind having him at first. And then Isaac, obviously he won the World Championships, and for me, when I'm rating somebody as far as rating them as number player in the world, is the consistency. Again, and Isaac is also very consistent as well. He even if he's not winning, he's obviously got 2 majors this year, and on top of that, he's got a lot of top 10 finishes. So I think that's what you have to look at for someone, is not only their wins, but it's when they're not winning, where are they finishing? If they're not winning and they're getting 50th place, yeah, that does in my mind that doesn't weigh as much. You have to be able to scrap out good finishes even when you don't have your best stuff, and that's what determines one of the best players in the world.
All right, we've got intern Ben here. He has one question for you, and we're going to see if his audio is working out. Ben, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Unplugged my headphones. So, yeah, Rick, you know, this year's event format-wise, I just want to get your, pros and cons. What did you like? Or if this was just like, this was the event that way better and the other one was trash.
First of all, we're going to give Rick the interpretation there. Ben, your audio is literally like doing that, like talk and cut out. So like, it's weird.
I'm going to plug back in my headphones.
I don't know if it's going to be better, but Rick, he said, what do you think of the format, the pros and cons from how you saw it this year?
Yeah, so I think that I like the fact that this year we were able to, the top players, if you played all season and you got top 10, you were rewarded with strokes, and it made it that much easier to get into the finals. So the players that played well all season long, it wasn't just a point system where, hey, you got number 1. No, that point system translated directly into the tournament. Like I think everyone that got strokes qualified, I believe. So that made it that much easier. The Simon, me, I guess Simon didn't. Simon was probably the one that didn't qualify, that did get strokes. But everyone else, like me, Calvin, Isaac, Ganon, it just makes it that much easier to make the finals, which I think is something that is very important when you're playing at a high level, and you should get rewarded for it. And you still have to earn it. You still have to go out there and play in the semifinal rounds the first 2 days, but you have a handicap, and you have earned that. It's not just a random thing. And the players that just barely made it in, the players like Ulibarri and the players that just barely snuck in, they have to play excellent to beat you, to make up for that 3 or 4 or 5 stroke handicap.
Yeah, no, that's good insight. Ben, let's see if your audio could provide any feedback.
Yep. Is it good now?
It's it's better.
Okay.
Okay, so no follow-up. Okay.
Well, sorry. Focus on this, but yeah.
It's not working again. No. It literally cuts out every time you talk. So I don't know what to do with this, Ben. You could call in too if you want. We can just do a phone call.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if I can.
Oh no.
Just watch.
You'll watch it back. You'll watch it back and laugh. But I want to keep Ricky. So Rick, we thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to say? It was cool to hear you shout out, obviously, as you always do. I don't know why I'm saying it's cool, but I heard you shout out Dynamic Discs. I heard you shout out Sunstein and LWS. I think it was LWS. And
yep.
That's great. The season's over. Any closing thoughts for the season? Who's player of the year?
Yeah, no, just player of the year is Calvin.
It's easy.
It's
that
close.
Easy?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I think so. I mean, Isaac obviously would be right there. What do you guys think?
We're going to bring Rick in as the third host tonight. He's asking our opinions.
Right?
All right.
Right?
I'll say quickly, I personally say Isaac. I personally see the 2 majors being huge wins. Rick, I know you've spoken in the past that you think all pro tour events, but when the field's all there, that those wins are the same. But I do value Champions Cup and Worlds more than I do value the Las Vegas Challenge and Jonesboro. Yes, that was Calvin's other win. That's me personally. But if somebody says they think Calvin's the player of the year, I don't think I'll really argue it. I'll just say I feel a different way.
Yeah, no, I see that, and I think what if whoever's making the decision, what they should do is say, hey, this obviously the Worlds and Champions Cup outweigh pretty much any tournament besides USD, UC, and Worlds. And he obviously won Worlds, but I think you look at the other events. A good way to look at it is you say, hey, you take the majors. Isaac's obviously won the major category. All right, then you go to the next category. If Calvin wins far and away multiple different categories to outweigh that, then yeah, I would say he wins. But if you look at, and I haven't looked that closely at Isaac's stats as far as the other 20 tournaments that he's played that weren't the majors, but that's something I think should factor in. Is obviously you definitely weight the majors, like you said. I think that's a very smart thing, and I think that's something that you should do. And then you got to look at the secondary stuff, which is important as well. If you have 10 or 15 tournaments where Calvin beat Isaac, and not only beat Isaac but played at a high level and got second or third place, week in and week out, and Isaac was getting 10th or 20th, for 10 or 15 events. That's something you definitely have to look at, in my opinion.
Well, we'll change this into, whenever people change the name of our show, it's usually like the Nick and they'll make up something else. The Nick and Fat, the Nick and Nap, the Nick and whatever. Tonight,
the Nick and Rick.
Yes.
Nick and Rick.
Tonight they said the Rick and Matt show, and I'm taking it. So we got rid of
That's
Nick for once.
Funny. That's funny. Sorry, Nick.
No. For once we're booting Nick because Nick didn't show up tonight. He called out. So this is what happens. He's out. You're in.
Called in sick. All right.
And Rick, before we let you go, just let you know real quick, this season, Calvin Heimburg is 16-6 versus Isaac Robinson's. So he definitely has the edge head-to-head against Isaac.
Okay.
Calvin, I mean, you've said it many times, Calvin's consistently this year has been incredible. He only has one finish outside of the top 10 this entire season, and that was Champions Cup being 16th. Every single other one has been in the top 10. I think that's absolutely incredible. I want to highlight how good his year has been, although my vote might be different.
Okay, yeah, and like I said, I totally get where you're coming from. I think that's basically where you would go. It's between them, and it is the fact that he beat him 10 times. Does that outweigh those two majors? And maybe not. I mean, it's just like I said, it could in a certain way. I kind of feel like it does, and so but yeah.
It's a great discussion. We won't be done with it this episode. Everyone else will be talking about it until the awards are finalized.
All right. With that being said, we're going to let you go, Rick. We do appreciate all your time, including some of the tech difficulties. We're glad we worked it out with the phone here. And we'll, I don't know, enjoy your off season. I guess that's what I'll say. And we'll catch up with you another time.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me on. When I was on 2 times this year, I think.
Dude. It's often enough, but yeah, we could have you more. So if you ever want to come on, hit us up.
No, it's all good. No, I just want to say thank you for having me on. Thanks to everybody watching the show, supporting Disc Golf Network, watching everybody. We truly appreciate all the fans and everybody supporting the Nick and Matt show, supporting the players and everybody involved. So I'm excited to hopefully be on the show again next year.
Yeah, well, anytime you want, Rick, just hit us up. It's the Rick and Matt show. Remember that, not Nick. Just... all right, Rick. On. We'll catch you another time. Really appreciate it. Have a good one. Safe travels. Peace out.
All right, see you guys.
The energy is unmatched, and I love every minute of it. It is great.
It is great. All right, so I'm hitting some buttons. Still trying to manage this all on my own here. Intern Ben, you're never going on vacation again. But with that being said, you do sound okay. You sound loud, but let's taper it down here, and we'll bring in Missy Ganon. We'll see how this goes. All right, let's welcome to the show, everybody. Big Money Missy. So Missy, the same thing I did with Rick. I mean, you are the recipient of the first ever largest single cash payout prize ever. You have that forever. What is that like? I'm just jumping right to it, then we can talk about the rest. Some people will say no, but I just fixed it, so now we can.
Okay. Better?
So the audio is fine. It's going to catch up. I think the internet will catch up, but the audio is fine. So just keep talking. We'll catch up with the video.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, it's such a cool honor to be a two-time Pro Tour champion, and have the record-breaking single payout. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I just went full screen on it because we can see a number, $40,000 behind it. What does that do? What does that do to the bank account besides increase it by $40,000? I mean, it's to your bank account of competitive satisfaction. Like, what does it do? Did you sit there and look at it and go, "Holy crap, I just won $40,000"? Like today, yesterday, like when did that sink in?
Yeah, it's funny. I one of my interview right after the event on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, I mentioned I was asked the same question, like, when did you ever think about the $40,000, like throughout any of the final round, or did it ever creep into your head? And for me, it didn't. I'm happy with the way that I held myself through the round. I wasn't thinking about the outcome, and honestly, the title was way more important to me than the money was. And that's just a testament to how supportive my sponsors are, and it's I'm grateful that I don't have to just think about the money all the time anymore, and I can really just focus on my job. And so the cash prize is just sort of like this humongous cherry on top for me, and yeah, it's nice that I can take that in, and yeah, just have that as like the byproduct of playing really well and having a really solid season.
Yeah, so generically speaking, for the whole event itself, not any specific round, was it the massage before the event that was the key to your success?
Probably. I definitely felt during the Throw Pink Championship, I felt extremely tight, like stiffer than I normally do, mostly in my shoulders. And I don't know if it was just like it hit me all at once, or I wasn't doing enough of my own sort of PT towards the end of the season. It got so packed with events, and it's hard to it's hard to like relax, but also still try to get massages and do things, all of these like 4-round events that were like back to back to back. And so I finally, when I felt that I was in need of something, I was like, well, what better time to do it than right before the tour championship? I might as well do whatever I can to set myself up for at least hopefully some better success. And it definitely helped. I'm sure of it.
I listened to the press conference. What can I say? And I was like, oh, that sounds nice. So you go into the first round, second round, at any point, and you're always honest with us, but at any point during these rounds, did you ever have this feeling of like, maybe it's not my year? Or did you always say, no way, it's literally down to the last hole? Like at any point during the 4 rounds?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like I came into this tour championship with very little expectations, which I hadn't been doing well in the previous event. So like US Women's, I just had like this confidence, which is really good. This confidence that I was going to do really well. But I think that I was looking at the bigger picture, and that was also in the Throw Pink Championship. I'm like, oh, I play really well here. Like it's gonna be great, and it for the most part was. Like I didn't do bad, but it was not up to what my expectations were, which I wish I didn't have those. For this past week, I really just took every round and every hole, you know, for what it was, and just tried to play each hole the best that I could. And we always say that, you know, you have to stay in the moment. It's every shot that matters. It's not, you know, the outcome, but to actually do that and follow that is way harder to do. So I think it was just one of those weekends where everything was sort of clicking mentally, and then, you know, it sort of went into my physical play, and yeah, it was just I could tell that I was in the mindset that really helps set myself up for success, and just, yeah, just staying really present and not thinking about what could be. I think for the most part, I to be honest, like most people, you know, pretty burnt out at this point. I'm typically not like one to sort of just like fizzle out. I tend to like do pretty well towards the end of the season. And I just knew that, like, even if I felt a little more burnt out than usual, I needed to just muster up any last bit of energy and just like send it for this week.
Send it. I'm going to do a quick refresh on your video here. We didn't lose you. I'm just trying to hopefully maybe sync it up a little bit more, so it doesn't look like the subtitle version of like a foreign movie. But your audio is great, so it's just the syncing. But so I know as a competitor, you're not thinking about other competitors, but after the rounds, you must have seen the scores and said to yourself, "Wow, like Own or other players are like, wow, really performing well." Did you ever think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think my going into, I think, like the first round of the finals, you know, Owen shoots 5 down, I shoot 2 down, you know, that's pretty good. But I was like, dang, you know, Owen is just shredding this course, and, you know, even throwing, because she was trying to rely mostly on her forehand as much as she could because her backhand was hurting her. But that's on that course, in my opinion, it's very heavily backhand, hyzer flip, and that maybe that's just my game, but there are a few holes that really stand out as pretty much only backhand holes, or tee shots that are really challenging. And the fact that she was able to play the way she was under the circumstances of, you know, being tentative with her backhand and trying not to go to it as often as possible. You know, I was just like, I don't know what I'm gonna have to do to catch her. And she was honestly the only one I was worried about going into the last round, other than the fact that I was like, okay, Kristen has to do something pretty incredible, but I kind of wished I didn't have to think about what she was doing. It was in the back of my mind a little bit, because I wasn't playing with her. So, and that's not typical, right? And so, you know, I knew Tom was keeping an eye on it, and he would have told me whatever I needed to know if I needed to know. And Kristen throw her shots and see what score she was putting up. But really, I mean, my eyes were on Own, because I was close to her in score. She was the one that was, you know, showing that she can play really well on the course. So, you know, unfortunately, she did not have the round that she was hoping for the final round. But that's also, you know, that's Nevin for you. You know, I shot 2 down, 4 over, 2 down, and then, you know, eventually 3 down. So I don't even know.
Your practice round,
you know,
in the press conference, I think you said 4 down in a practice round, and that must have given you some confidence for sure. But then, like you said, it's just how Nevin's plays out. It's always different each round. But you stayed in it. You battled all the way to the end, and incredible and awesome, you know, celebration with some friends running out with champagne or whatever it was, just spraying you, and the check being handed, and the trophy. We asked Rick about that, and the trophy is pretty epic. Is that the largest trophy you've ever received to take home?
Yeah, it's sitting right next to me, and I'm sitting down, but it's about up to my
Oh my goodness.
nose almost. I can sort of bring it over.
If you explain it to us,
the size of my head.
It's
even just the
metal.
top of
It's
it.
metal, and
So,
it has some weight to it.
yeah.
Awesome.
It's quite heavy. I was kind of lugging it around all over the course afterwards. Yeah.
You don't want to bring that through the airport. They're gonna really do some double checks. But what did you think of this format? I again in your press conference heard you talk about different feelings about it. After having played through it, do you think there's pros and cons in your mind? And I'll give credit to the chat and intern Ben for the last question on this. But what do you think about the pros and cons to how this format played out?
Yeah, I've kind of been going over it in my head, which one I like better. I think that the previous format had a different stress level involved. While if it was the previous format, I would have gotten a bye to the semis, right? Because the top four in FPO get a bye to the semis, and so I would have only technically had to play 2 rounds, to win the ultimate prize. But I there's with the single elimination thing, it's such a stressful thing because you have to be on, the for 2 rounds, right? It's like if I had that 4-over day, that likely would have been, I would have been out. So I don't know. I think that the old format was definitely added that stress level and like different concept, but I feel like having to play 4 rounds for $40,000 really made a lot of sense, and I think that it made me feel like I really earned it because we all had to play the same amount of rounds in the end, and new format over the old format, and I think that it makes it more worth it for the players to, who get invited. I mean, nobody is not going to go if you qualify, but it just makes it, you're going to play at least 2 rounds, and I think that makes it a little easier to like invest in lodging and all that stuff.
Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure, and Evan can back me up, or you can, of course, like there was a minimum payout for FPO just because you made it. Was that 2,500? Is that correct for both divisions? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I also saw it's technically there was a entry fee too. Is that correct? You had to pay about $500.
Yep.
Okay.
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, but you're guaranteed your money back. It's just part of the entry fee and commitment to playing the round. Evan, do you have any questions? I've been going a little while here.
No, you've been doing great, Matt. So Missy, last time you won this event,
I've been talking a lot.
Sorry, with the audio just a little off. It just synced up. Sorry about that. The last time you won this event, it was when I was at Hornet's Nest, but you have now won this event twice. The only other event on tour that you have won twice is Ledgestone, which is a very premier event and one of the highest payouts during the elite season. Of course, you have the name Big Money Missy now. Tell us about winning this event twice and winning Ledgestone twice. What does that mean that it's 2 premier events in the season?
I don't know. It's so interesting to me because maybe it's something about the 4-round event and having the variety. I mean, Nevin is almost exclusively wooded, except for like the first hole and the last 2 holes now. But I don't know. I think I just play really solidly on certain courses, especially when they're wooded. I was trying to think of the comparisons between like a Northwood Black and a Nevin, and there are a lot of similarities. The shots just shape up really well for me. There are a lot of hyzer flips. I have enough capability of throwing like a turnover on Nevin when needed, but I think that I just got lucky, but got lucky with the fact that I think that the harder course at Ledgestone really suits my game well, and Nevin is the same. So yeah, call it a little bit of luck that Nevin's kind of my bread and butter in a way.
And then just more of a stat to add on. If you have any response to this, you are more than welcome to answer. But This is now your 7th PDGA payout that's $6,000 or more. Of course, this one being a lot more than $6,000, but it is over $6,000. That is your 7th. It's the second most in FPO history. Only Kristen Tatar has more. 3 of those are in 2023. We'll talk about Big Money Missy for plenty while now. But just wanted to throw that out there, and if you have any reaction to that.
Yeah, well, I think that that's also just a huge shout out to the Disc Golf Pro Tour and just how much they're investing in the sport and getting big sponsors to invest in the sport. The payouts are just getting bigger, and I happen to play pretty well at some of the bigger payout events. Don't know why. I'm glad that I'm able to back up my nickname. Finally winning this weekend, I was like, all right, there's just zero question. I could not cash for the rest of my career. It's like I'm Big Money Missy, and I pretty much solidified that this weekend.
We'll be looking for the Thrasher merch and whatever else with that saying on there.
Yeah, I feel like it's funny because going into this, I'm like, she's been given that nickname. I think we asked you on our last time we had you on, which wasn't that long ago, about that, even the nickname. And you said something like, well, I guess, or I hope that I keep winning the big money because it needs to be that way. And you did it. And I, like you said, I think no matter what now, like it's how your nickname not came to be, but how it came to fruition. Actually, like, I don't know what they call it. You've what am I trying to think here? You fulfilled it. Self-fulfilling prophecy type deal. It's like, we'll give you the nickname. Manifested it. There you go. And so that's incredible for you. So you're doing well financially. You said that on the front end of this. At what point in your disc golf career did you feel that way? Was it this season, or was it coming out of your last tour championship win? Like, at what point did you feel this comfortability?
Yeah, I think I would say coming off of those like 2 big wins at the end of 2021. At the time, I think Throw Pink was like $6,000, and then the tour championship was $30,000. And so, yeah, I think that was my second year with Discraft, and I had a pretty solid contract in my opinion at that point. And I think that off season of 2021 into 2022 was probably when I really felt more comfortable. Because I have the experience from pre-COVID. I started touring in mid 2018. And I was nobody, and I didn't expect to get a huge sponsorship or anything like that. I just wanted to see what would happen, and I literally know what it's like to be at the bottom, and I think that's what keeps me grateful and humble, and really appreciate how far the sport has come and how hard we've grinded. And when I see the newcomers to the tour grinding, it's a little bit easier now, but it's still such a hard thing to do, to commit to touring. And I just it's like it's nice to have that perspective. It's keeping me grounded and appreciative.
Yeah, absolutely. Intern Ben, you look like you're in witness protection program with those pixels there, but do you have any questions for Big Money? Do you have her fundraiser disc?
I don't, unfortunately, but I have picked you a lot to win. Not this event, but I have.
All right. He has. We're still trying to figure out his audio the whole show. Ben, it's working, but it's just now really loud. Maybe it's fine to the listening audience, but I'm bringing it down in our headphones. I can't bring it in my headphones. Okay, so
yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, all good. Okay, so man, there's so many things we could talk to you about, but you traveled all day. I'm just trying to think, is there anything that I've missed that the show's yelling at me about right now? Anybody on the chat, give us a last question to ask. Evan, do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, we've hit the off season. Tour starting in Florida next year, but that's a little over 4 months away. So what's in the plans? Oh, I guess All Stars would be the next one. Excuse me. That's starting in Florida as well. What are the plans for the next 4 months throughout the off season?
Mhm.
Are you going to do anything cool? Are you going to lay low? Are you going to work on anything specific? Just give us some fun details.
Mhm. Yeah, well, if it sounds a little echoey, it's because I'm in a fairly empty home that Tom and I purchased back in May, and it's in Pensacola, Florida. So when we heard about the tour starting in Florida, I was the developments in our life, and yeah, it's so we just got into town, and our good friends Paige and Alyssa, Paige Pierce. Set us up with some of their hand-me-down old furniture so that we didn't show up with absolutely nothing in the house, which was a really nice surprise. We didn't know they were going to do that, and yeah. So anyway, it's going to be an off season in Florida. No big trips, nothing. Nothing planned like last year where we had gone to Africa and we had done another international trip for fun. Um, so yeah, it's all about just actually having a kind of a normal off season, being able to really focus on you know my developing more of my skills, and I think in my mind my forehand is something that I really want to work on, and thankfully close by I have my friend Eric Oakley, who is quite the forehand specialist. So I'm hoping to get his help with developing my forehand, and yeah, I think it's going to be great. I mean, first thing first, we got to get this house furnished. But thankfully, I got a little extra money I could use for that now.
Look at that.
In all seriousness, does a $40,000 check pay out like a bonus to a salary you have? How does accounting work on that? Do you have to give away a lot of that to taxes? Do you know? You've won big chunks in the past.
So as a disc golfer, you have to pay taxes to every state that you earn money in. So I'm going to have to pay some taxes to North Carolina on this bad boy. So yeah, I actually work with LWS as well. I know Ricky works with them, and so thankfully they can figure all that out for me. But yeah, it's not fun, but it's what we have to do as Americans. So. We'll come to that. We'll come to that when we need to.
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
North Carolina employees, I guess, in a way. Which the tour can come to New Hampshire tax free on income taxes. I think a few other states are like that. I think Florida is one of them too. So,
yeah, that's part of the reason we moved. We moved here. One of the perks of moving here is that we don't have to pay income tax. So yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, it's like sometimes I'll get a bonus at work and then you're like celebrating and you're like, wait a minute, it's going to be like half of that. So anyways,
yeah.
Wow, we're really excited for you. And I know there's no pressure here, but I know every time I reach out to Big Money Missy, it's likely that she'll make time for us. And this time was no different. And we are so happy to see you win because we like you. But also, we knew we weren't getting the Kristen Tatar interview. She already told us no interviews this season. We might have gotten the Owen Scoggins interview. So at the Nick and Matt show, we kind of roll the dice. Who can we get? And we knew we were rooting for you. So it would have been neat to see other people win. But you coming and pushing through so confidently and solidly through the whole thing. Our group chat started texting Big Money Missy in all caps as we were coming in the final stretch. So we're excited for you. Is there anything we missed talking about that you'd like to talk about?
No, I don't think so. I just want to, thank all my sponsors, Discraft, Grip, Whale Sacks. Oh my gosh, I always blank. I don't know why. But
all
I
of
always
them.
do.
All of them.
It's terrible. I have 5. It's not even that hard.
Well, how about this? Not
My brain is
remembering my
struggled.
wife's anniversary is pretty bad, or my children's birthdays. So, like, you know what? I give you credit for remembering a few of them, and quite frankly, even the most.
Here we go.
Okay, good. I gave you time. Perfect.
Yep. Ledgestone, Thank you. And Good Dog Seltzer. So, yes, they are big supporters and helpful to me. I just have a terrible time spitting it out sometimes.
I'm telling you, even the closest people to me, I forget as well. And I think through your post and through how you usually represent them, we probably could have answered for you. So we do appreciate you coming on. We're excited about it. We hope you get good rest. If you ever want to just come on and hang out in the off season, let us know and we'll talk and we'll include you and we'd be happy to do that. So have a good off season, Missy. Relax. No more interviews until next year, hopefully. No.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, hopefully I'll be back for sure.
All right. Bye, Missy. Okay, everybody. Missy Ganon. If that was both for our audio listeners, probably they could tell there's a little delay. Our video listeners felt like they were watching a foreign film. The audio was decent. The lips just wouldn't line up. I tried reconnecting that call 3 times, and I would be a reconnect legitimately with.
It was great once it refreshed. It just got off track a little bit.
I blame it a little bit, maybe on the Bluetooth connection. Like I know in my truck sometimes it's a little delayed with audio, and so maybe that's part of it. But I always appreciate her personality and her answers and her candor and everything about it. That was cool to see her pull the trophy right there to her lap. That's a big shiny trophy. And Evan, we can talk about trophies real quick. What do you think about them? Because my initial reaction is actually they're big, and big trophies are cool, and they're shiny and they're metal. I actually give them a pretty high grade. I don't think it's the best I've seen, but it's good.
Yeah, it's different, and I think that takes time to kind of turn around to. When I first saw it, I was like, I thought it kind of looked weird, but like after a day of it, kind of seasoning, I'm like, hey, you know what? Like I kind of like them.
Yeah.
So that's all it needs. Everything needs time. It's not your classy, large, cup trophy. Like I think European Open, or you think to like soccer trophies or the Lombardi Trophy. Those are really classy feel. It wasn't quite that style, but it was a good style still, and I enjoyed it. And I have no hate here. I think it was cool.
Hopefully my audio is good, but the trophy it reminded me of if the alien race landed on a UFO down on Earth, and they said, hey, make us a trophy. And we said, hey, make us a trophy. That's what the trophy reminded me of. Some very shiny metal intergalactic trophy.
Yeah.
That is certainly a take, Ben.
And for what it's worth, our recording and our live listeners right now, they should be getting decent audio from you, Ben. I just have to take my headphones off when you talk because I can't figure out why it's so loud for me.
Well, I'm thankful over here it's not as loud.
Really? It's good. Okay. Well,
I mean, it's loud, but it's not like I need to take my headphones off loud. Okay. It's more of like you're in the room with him. He's loud. But
this is my first time joining over the internet, I guess. So, obviously it's
that's not true. You did it on vacation one other time. The room was a little bit louder.
Oh, yeah. And it was definitely better Wi-Fi, but I have no.
All right.
I do want to say I love the backdrop from Missy Ganon. Putting the big check behind her. I thought it was a green screen at first, but then I'm like, oh man, that's the real thing. That was really cool to see it. And I'll say this, I'll say a cool story about myself. In college, I actually won a big check I kicked a 25-yard field goal for $1,000 from Allstate. It was one of those when they were sponsoring a lot of those. I got a big check that it didn't say my name on it, but it did say for $1,000. And I'll say this, it was considered a scholarship. So it was tax-free. Talk about that.
Wow.
But I kept that big check wherever I lived. My roommates had to deal with it until I pretty much drove home from school and it didn't fit in my car. And I'm like, well, that's the end of that. But I still wish I had it to this day because that's a cool thing to have. You could go out and just buy one, I guess, but earning a big check is one of the coolest feelings in the world. It doesn't matter the amount, but $40,000 is definitely a cooler amount than a mere $1,000. But hey, I like it. I think it's neat.
Okay.
So to round that out too, is I think the big check is like the coolest trophy in my opinion. But I think Missy was pretty happy with the trophy itself too. And Rick was saying good words about it as well. So they like both clearly.
Yeah. Someone in the chat said Ben's audio is way louder than the others. I don't know what to do.
What am I doing here? Why did I join? I'm sorry, guys. I ruined the show.
No, you being
not the first
away.
time.
You being away ruined.
Yeah.
All right.
Here, I'll still be in California next Monday, so I think I'll skip out on that one to save you all the suffering.
We'll ship a microphone to you. We'll ship a microphone out to you. You can
Thanks.
sit there. You
Best
can
Buys
sit
up
there and
there.
look good, and you can even like play games with holding up one finger or two. We'll say 1 is yes, 2 is no. Like we could make it work. Okay.
Oh, they say it's fine now. Oh, it's because I took off these. See? Got it. I took off my earbuds.
Maybe we
They
should.
say we're good now.
Maybe we should have tried a test. Okay. So we're just about to be joined by a disc golf content creator, YouTuber, friend of the show. I already mentioned this earlier on, Anthony Bodanza. I also talked about the video that he produced of the backyard tournament we put on, which I think next year is going to be more popular, but our spots are still limited. So we're going to keep the invite list grandfathered in, and we'll open up a few more. We'll talk about that next year when we get there, but he's supposed to be joining, but he's also standing up the show a little bit here. So we'll see how this goes down. We have some other topics to get to. First of all, can I bring up the topic of quote shot clocks in disc golf? I am leaning way more towards pace of play, like group pace of play. If someone's coming up on you, then you get a warning, like that kind of pace of play, not per shot. Because this, for $40,000, I saw some shots where it was like they are taking their serious time. I don't remember. I think it was Adam Hammis, his approach on 18, which actually ended up getting him in to the final. And he took his time. And during the live commentary, I'm not going to say the name because that's not about who said this, but on live commentary, it's like, all right, well, you're already way into your 30 seconds. Like, that's what the story was. And I'm like, that is the least of the story. The players right now are so focused in on this moment, knowing that he has to make the green. And it's possibly worth $40,000, even 2 rounds out. It's possibly worth $40,000 opportunity. And that's what we're talking about. Like, I just want to get rid of that because the excitement is in, is he going to do it or not? Take all the time you want. That's the moment. So I just set that up. Evan, what do you think?
So you wanting to get rid of it is one thing. Like I'm going to argue that second. What I'm going to argue first is how you're not liking a commentator mention it. What I'll say is like kind of all rules are equal. That's kind of a cop-out answer a little bit. But if a player is going over the 30 seconds of the allotted time and you're like, hey, that shouldn't matter right now because it's a shot for $40,000.
No. I didn't say that shouldn't matter right now. I said I do not want
that
this
shouldn't be the story.
I don't want this to be no, I don't want there to be a shot clock. The fact that he called it out just reinforces why I don't want it, is what I'm saying. Not that it isn't there. Well, I'm saying that
I'll wrap up my
go ahead.
I'll wrap up my point quickly is that I think taking over 30 seconds is the same as, like, let's say foot faulting or the same as playing out of turn. Like, all of it is a penalty and you're not going by the rules. You're not playing how you should be. That is important when you play. You know, Ben, when he foot faults when we play, it's an advantage because he's not thinking about it. Getting into another topic. Sorry, Ben. When somebody foot faults, they don't have to think about foot faulting or not. I actively think about not foot faulting when I do a walk-up approach. So now I'm getting essentially penalized if that's not, used. I play relatively quick, so I don't feel like I go to 30 seconds. But if I was a player that pushed it and it was thinking about it, it would be a disadvantage knowing I had to get a shot off by 30 seconds, whereas a player who doesn't care and then also doesn't get called gets a huge advantage by not having to think about it. Now, is it a rule or not? Like, I agree with the sentiment that it could be card based. You're going to mention the Tour Championship and MPO. The chase card was definitely playing slow, making a lot of backups for the lead card. That is a bad viewing experience. I think we should try to fix that. But at the same time, there are times where maybe the card's playing totally fine and you're watching a player just take way too much time. And the minute is going, like the counter's going up to like about a minute or two. So I do think it's important to have some sort of counter as a whole. If we want to bump it up to 45 seconds or 60 seconds or something like that, but then also institute a full card count, maybe not counter, but like, again, they're falling behind, another card's hitting them. I think that could work, but I do think there needs to be some sort of timer that is reasonable, and I wouldn't go anything over 60 seconds. You don't ever need more than 60 seconds for a shot. I get that some things are pressure filled, but like, that's what we play.
Yeah, I just saying how I feel about it. Not that it wasn't that, again, I'll reiterate, it's not that I'm bothered he was calling out the rule, although it still is kind of like, dude, that's not what we want to talk about right now. Like, even if it is a rule, it's not the feeling that I want the storyline. But what I'm saying is, and I think you caught it here at the end, is like, I just don't want it to be a rule, make it pace of play, and I understand your perspective. So I think there would have to be some happy balance there. The chat or the comments can fill us in on what we've missed out on. But without further delay, we actually have in our green room, YouTuber, disc golf content creator extraordinaire. His name is Anthony, and his YouTube channel is Bodanza Disc Golf. Let's bring him in. Boom, and just like that, welcome to the magic of the Nick and Matt Show. Anthony, you're here. How are you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. How are you? Sorry, I was a couple minutes late.
You were just, fashionably late. Fashionably. People were waiting. We're building the excitement.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, building the excitement. So, all right. It's possible that we have a slight delay with Anthony as well. Just so you know, we might have a slight audio delay, and I'm not sure what's going on tonight, but it's working. We can hear you fine. I just told the people, you make content. I'm assuming most of them know who you are. They've probably seen your content, but if not, and there's crossover here, they need to go over and subscribe, get them as many subscribers from our channel as possible. He is creating great content, including, let's just talk about it. You happen to be up in my neck of the woods when I was putting on an invite-only backyard tournament, and you came in with your camera, and you said, is it cool if I record? And I said, absolutely. And tell us about it. What was your experience? Why should people go watch that video?
Yeah, so Intern Ben told me that you're putting that on, so I had to book flights immediately. Didn't really have anything else special planned for the weekend, but I came out there. It turned out to be, honestly, one of the most fun events in disc golf that I've been to, regardless of the fact that it's in your backyard. There are just a bunch of people there. If people haven't watched it, there's actually a 3-round tournament that Matt had in his backyard. It was kind of nuts. I was able to record, obviously, my perspective of the whole thing, but the whole final 6 holes of all the people who were on that final card, because it's basically the first round was 18 holes that you crisscross, and it took 5.5, maybe 10 hours to play that one round in his backyard. It was kind of nuts because you had to wait for 12 people to throw across the whole entire thing. And then there was a putting round where I thought I was going to lose my seating, and fortunately putted just good enough to make the last little bit. And Ganon was there, Korver was there, and local legend Harry Chase up in that neck of the woods. So it was just a blast of an event, and yeah, had a lot of fun putting that video together. Had way too much footage from it, so it's a little overwhelming. So it took me 4 weeks to actually get around to editing it. I was procrastinated the crap out of it, but it was a lot of fun and one of my favorite videos I put together.
Yeah, it's funny because I want your perspective on something, because when you say it out loud, dude, you had to wait for 12 people to throw and this and that, it sounds actually kind of miserable. But the way this event was set up, right, it was actually kind of entertaining to watch people throw their shots, and then you actually had a gallery watching every shot you did as well, so it was kind of fun. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. I just jokingly say that.
Yeah.
It did take a while, but it's because
it did take a while.
Basically, he has 3 holes on the top of his house, or 3 baskets and 3 tee pads, and 3 baskets and tee pads on the lower side. And so you throw from each opposite basket to each opposite tee pad. But instead of playing each person at one tee pad at a time, you throw all the upper people to all the lower baskets, and then vice versa. So 12 people throw, and then you wait for the other 12 people to throw, and then you walk down and everyone putts out. And so every hole was under 300 feet, and I think the round legitimately took 4.5 hours. But it was a fun time because everyone was having a great time.
It was long, and part of it is, if you remember or don't remember, the chaos of that morning, that of 365 days, and I pick a day for this, they're deciding to grind and pave the road in front of my house. And that alone delayed everything. So it was just crazy chaos. Next year will be dialed in a lot more. But One of my favorite moments from that video, because this is really what sparked it, is, well, first of all, I commented on your video from the Nick and Matt show. I said, hey, get 500 likes. We're going to give Anthony the spot that he wanted to come on the show, because that was one of the winner's prizes, get interviewed on the Nick and Matt show. We said, we'll give him it. You get 500 likes. Well, your viewers came through in honorable fashion just immediately. I think it took less than 24 hours, 600 plus likes. They want you on the show. So if they're here listening, here he is. But one of my favorite moments on that video, I think it was Ganon throwing a grenade up and over the trees from the high holes to the low. You're laughing. It's so funny to watch, because I remember being down there, and you remember during the Disc Golf Pro Tour event when that guy got hit in the head by the grenade by Eagle. And so we all know it's happening. So Ganon throws it up. We all lose sight of it. And you're shot on video. People have to go watch this. You're shot on video. Everybody ducks. They're hitting the ground, and everyone's like, it's coming in. It was just, you made a really cool video. And I appreciate that, number one, for featuring, what we did back there. But two, I think the entertainment value for people and how you performed, seeing Ganon's like personality and Cole's personality come out even towards the end of the award ceremony, which, do you want to elaborate at all on the award ceremony? Because people are like, why does it say like 2019 on that trophy, and why is it, like, can you just elaborate on like the feeling of the ceremony?
Yeah. So first of all, to the grenade, that's one of my favorite cuts in the video, because there's like, the way I edit, I love to like interchange music, because music is like a mood building thing. And so there's a bunch of music happening. It's the end of this big montage. Ganon throws this grenade, and it just cuts. And my mic is like probably 100 yards away from everybody, and it's a little shotgun mic on top of my camera. And so you just hear like like, ah! Like everyone's screaming in the woods. It was so funny. The award ceremony was also a blast. It's kind of really unexpected. So first off, tied for third place with Ganon. Little spoiler alert. We won't say who won or whatnot, but they gave me like a gardening glove or something. And they gave each of us one of them. So we couldn't even have a full set, unfortunately. And Ganon just gets up there and does his little, this is one of my other favorite cuts in the video. I'm going to spoil it, but basically Intern Ben is like, how much is Prodigy going to pay you for the win? And I just cut it right there, like to the next thing that Ganon said, because it's like, we don't need any more of that Ganon Prodigy stuff. But yeah, I thought that if you don't want to watch the video, skip to the very end and watch the award ceremony, because that is some of the most like fun juxtaposition editing that I've done in a while. I just like, the mood is so different than the way that it feels. It was so fun. That was a really fun time, and very unexpected at the end. And
I will say as well, it was kind of unexpected for us. We had thought through the event, but not quite through the finish line, as in like how we were going to finish this up. And by the way, not gardening gloves, friction gloves. They were a thing in disc golf for a little bit. Friction. Oh, my bad. They were for ultimate disc golf, ultimate frisbee originally. And they tried to cross over into disc golf, and they did for a while, but those were like, some people throw with gloves, as crazy as that is. But so maybe you got a lefty glove. I don't know. But either way, there's your trophy.
Can you send me mine now? Actually, I need to throw farther. Can you send it to me now? I want it.
You can test them out. You can get a full sponsorship, Friction Gloves, free advertising right there. So we brought you on the show. Again, great content. Tell us a little bit, in your own words, your own story, like how long ago did you start, and what is your goal, and like what is this journey about? Because it's probably different than when you started.
Yeah, definitely is. Very publicly too. So I started playing disc golf last January. First time I lived in a van. I moved into a van 2 Septembers ago with my wife. Needed hobbies, and we were just like randomly parked at this park in Chattanooga, and we had an ultimate disc. And so I went and played. There's a disc golf course there, so I went and played it. I told my buddy who we were visiting in a couple weeks, who was in Kansas City, and so we drive through. He gives me a couple discs. A couple weeks later, we're staying at Zilker Park in Austin. I played my first round of disc golf in like January last year, and like a lot of people can probably remember their first round and just like how much it hooks them. I was just like, there's so much in disc golf that's like, there's athleticism, there's problem solving, and there's gamesmanship and like competition. And so just like hooked me immediately. I started playing, wanting to get better and everything. And I had a YouTube channel before the YouTube channel that I now have for disc golf. And so I started watching a ton of YouTube videos and just realizing so many more people wanted to watch more videos than were even being created. And so I was like, I can make some videos. So I started putting up videos in my style in June, and like very quickly, like things just take over my life. And so I was like, I want to cash at a Pro Tour event, see what that journey is like. And so I put that out publicly that I wanted to do that. And then I thought that'd be a multi-year goal. And I guess technically based on all these changes, it still could be, but I was able to cash at the KC Wide Open, the only event I was able to get into this year, which was a silver event. So it doesn't count to some people, kind of counts for me. It moves on to the next goal. And so the next goal is actually turned into winning my first MPO event. And then I actually did that yesterday, which is pretty cool. So video about that will be coming out pretty soon. And then now it's basically, I think I want to get a tour card. And I took some time off after I had that collaboration with Simon, which is probably how a lot of people know me if they found my content recently. And I like took that time off to be like, what do I actually want? Because I didn't want to just like put a goal out from external pressure. I want to like think like, what do I want? And so now the goal is to get a tour card and try to play at the highest level that I possibly can. And so right now that's looking like working at getting better at throwing a disc farther, specifically because distance is one of the main parts of my game that's been lacking. And so spoiler alert, starting today, I have a series coming out. I'm in somebody's office right now. I flew out this morning.
Wow.
And I'm in someone's office that is helping me to throw farther.
Did that say
first video in that series will be coming out tonight?
Did that say
I don't know what it said, dude. I don't know. I can't read very well. I can't read. I don't know.
Okay. All right, cool.
Rhymes with Gru Dibson?
Something like that. I don't know. But first video in that series will be coming out tonight. It'll probably be 5 to 7 videos, and it'll be backhand boot camp. So I'm super excited for that.
Wow.
We had our first session. I literally came from that, which is why I'm sweating and came late, fashionably, according to Matt. But that'll be starting tonight. And first session went well. We have 4 more days of work to do, and hopefully I'll be throwing pretty well by the end of this.
I had to give you the compliments on Fashionably Late when in your video you gave the compliments on, can we take a minute and talk about Matt's most luscious beard ever? So, I mean, we'll just dish the comments back and forth. Dude, to be fair, that day, you remember this, how hot and humid, or at least humid was that day. I mean, we were just dripping.
Oh my.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So I think my beard was just extremely like bushed out too. It was like unruly. So thank you for the shout out there. But so no, Fashionably Late, totally fine. You're gonna learn how to throw farther. The Nick and Matt show is actually working on something right now with Tech Disc to see if we can increase our distance using that tool. Everybody's kind of getting into this distance thing, I've noticed in the content, and I think it's fantastic because it's gonna help people who didn't know that, 400 feet was far. They're like, I can throw 400. And you're like, no, you can't. Like, there's going to be people that realize all these players who are out there making content can't even do it. That's not to say it can't be done. It's just hard to do. We know Intern Ben can smash. We'll just let that one be. All right. So where do we go from here? Subscribers, that doesn't seem like an issue for you. It seems like you're just bringing them in by the thousands. So we're just going to keep, talking positive about you and you just keep doing what you're doing. And I think people are going to appreciate that. The content level is very high. Like the quality, that's what people look for. And now, most recently, my favorite video yet, my backyard. I mean, what can I say? You gained a significantly new fan. Okay. With that being said, we want to involve you in a few outro segments, if you will, here. This one actually might take a little bit, but I wanted to talk through end of the season, if we were to rate players. Ricky rated himself tonight. We asked him and he said his season. He said, like, did he say B plus? Is that what he said, Evan?
I think he said B minus. And again, that's for Ricky himself, not like a season in a vacuum,
Right. Exactly. Understood. So I think, do you want to pull up a list here, Evan, and kind of just bang through it? You got Statmando list. Do you want to just kind of hit like top 10 MPO, FPO, and we just kind of do the round table? Like, hey, let's rate their season based off of, I don't know. We did this before, basing it off of how we felt like coming into this season. That's how we rated them. Should we do that, or should we just rate it in a vacuum? Like, hey, look at it. Like, how does it feel? What do you want to do?
I think we should rate it as that player. So I think Ricky Wysocki, I mean, maybe we can just start with him and go out of order. But I think him saying B minus to me feels pretty accurate. For Ricky Wysocki, 2-time world champion, number 1 player in the world coming into 2023, at least by Statmando official. I think B minus is it.
Okay, so we're gonna rate it as if we're the player. Go ahead, give me the name, Ricky.
Oh yeah, let's start with Ricky Wysocki, just because we already had him in and we already talked about it. This one should be a little quicker.
It's a little quicker, but it's hard because I guess based off of the events he played is what we're looking at. That's a little bit tough because I feel like you kind of get a ding just for not being at some of them, but that's not his fault either. I'll give him I'm right in line with him, and it's a cop out, but it's not B-. I'll give him the B-. It's not quite a C, but yeah, B-. Let's go to intern Ben.
Yeah, and I'll say this real quick. It's for 2023. Ricky Wysocki played 15 events. I'm gonna have to manually add in the tour championship because it just wasn't calibrated in the stat medal profiles yet. He had at elite and majors. He had 2 wins after this, 3 podiums, 11 top 10s from 15 events.
Yep. So how do you feel, Ben? How would he rate himself? We already know, but what do you think?
Yeah. I'd say for me a B, just because, I think we all expected him to win a lot more because he won, I think, 4 last year and the championship. But yeah, I'd say B.
Okay. Bodanza.
Yeah, I think, honestly, I probably would put maybe B to B+. I tend to be on the higher end, just knowing the complications that he had at the beginning of the year and how Lyme is so unpredictable. It's just hard to know. And I know that he has obviously very high expectations of himself being one of the best that our sport has seen. On the broadcast, they said he was like one of those, you have good and great and generational players, or players that you remember for a while. And Ricky's definitely one of those guys. But I think he's probably harder on himself than he needs to be because of the complications that happen there. But I also haven't listened to how he said, like, if he's 100% or not for half the season, and then maybe he should have had another win or so. But I think that his season turned out with these 2 basically high-level wins and capping it here, pretty solid season.
And I'll say this too, going into this season with our expectations of Ricky compared to now, that feels accurate. But if we go to, let's say, around Champions Cup time, when he only played like 2 or so events and one of them was a DNF, and we're not really sure what his season was looking like, to see where it's come out in the end, you might bump that up closer to an A. But that's, of course, I don't think that's the point of this game, is to grade the mid-season. But it does say something about Ricky's season.
All right, give us another name.
Let's flip over to FPO and go back and forth just to keep it
and I'm going to leave this up to
Statmando
Statmando prerogative here. You just pick names. It doesn't have to be 1 through 10. It can be any name you want.
Yep. All right. So let's go. Missy Ganon wins the tour championship. It 2023.
If I'm her, I'm just cutting you off. I'm going right to it. If I'm her, this is at the least it's a A. I'm so close to giving her an A+ if I'm her. I think I do. The only reason I'm not is because I'm like, I think she wants that Worlds, like, to knock it off for that A+. But like, she's an A. It's an A straight up, and that's not taking anything away. That's my take. Ben.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I think without the tour championship win, I think it's probably she probably rated like a B-. But I think with that win, it's $40,000. If anyone wins $40,000, even if you come in last place, I'm calling your season at least a B.
All right, Bodanza.
Last place in every event, other event. Sorry.
I probably put it closer to the A to A- for sure. I think that she's probably slightly disappointed in the World's finish, but she was also the only name that really helped to keep that tournament super interesting and not have Kristen run away with it. That was super helpful from her. Winning the tour championship, you just got to feel good when you're big money Missy and then you take home the biggest money that the sport has ever seen. So that's kind of a win there.
Matt, I feel like I line up pretty close to you. Missy Ganon is a player who, as good as she is, I don't think you could be surprised if she goes a season without a win at elite or majors. And like, that might sound harsh, but I think it's true. But she's going to have tons of good finishes. She might win a couple smaller events. Silvers are going away, but that level she might win. But winning the tour, winning 2 events, winning Ledgestone, a very big event, an Elite Plus, and then winning the tour championship and winning $40,000 for her, that's pretty much the goal. Like, she's not going to win 5 events in a year. I don't think she's that good, especially when Kristen Tatar is in the field. So I give it an A. I think the only way is an A+ if she gets, at least a major, whether it's Worlds or a different major.
Yeah. And to be fair, this is as she would rate it. And I've already heard her say, so spoiler alert, she said this is her best season ever. And I would imagine she's going to give her best season ever an A. But that's just, again, that's my opinion. What do you got next?
All right, let's hop over to Ganon Burr. In 2023 at Elite and Majors, he has 3 wins, 5 podiums, and he had 11 top 10s. I think he finished top 10 at the Tour Championship, so that would make it 12.
Oh, man. I'm going to text Ganon right now and see if I can get an answer. I'm going to jump over to Ben, and then I'll give my answer in a second. Ben, what do you think?
Me personally, I think for Ganon, I think that he won a major last year, so I'm gonna give it a solid A. I think his 3 wins, 2 silver event wins. I think he's actually in contention for a player of the year. It's actually a debate this year. So I think he's pretty gassed about this season. I know he didn't really get that big win, but he got some 3 big wins at the hardest competition disc golf has ever seen.
Bodanza.
Yeah, I think Ganon probably rated his season of a. I don't know, man. My putt's not feeling very good this week, which probably equates to. I think honestly for him, it's probably like a B season. I think that he got some good wins, but missing cash at DDO and having kind of these late season finishes that are like not bad finishes for most players in the field, but for Ganon's standard, I don't think he's happy with how his season is kind of ended up, at least USDGC wise, not being able to be in the conversation for defending that. I think that he'd be a little disappointed on that, and he's a recency kind of guy, so I'm sure that weighs heavily into it.
A
plus. Dang.
Wow.
A minus. Yeah, A minus. So that's what he rates it.
I'm gonna tell him sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bodanza, did you give an official grade? I might have missed that. I'm sorry.
He was leaning into that A.
I said A minus.
Yeah.
I said A minus.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. A minus for sure. That's what I said.
No, I think he was saying you were saying something in the B range, but yeah, you were teetering around. I said
B.
Yeah. Okay. Evan, what did you think?
I agreed with a lot of Anthony's points. I actually thought Ganon would have rated himself closer to like a B or B minus. I think that'd be wrong, so I'm glad that Ganon said A minus, because I think it's right on that B plus A minus line. You can look at it different ways. You can look at it as one, hey, Ganon had the most elite or major victories in MPO this season. That's an A or A minus season. But for the points that Anthony said, and for how much potential you see in Ganon, it's almost like you want more than that. So it's kind of like it's tough. It's right on that line. I think I would have leaned B plus, but now that Ganon said A minus, of course I'm going to lean towards that. So I can't take that too much.
The privilege of having Ganon stay with me for 2 weeks gave me insight into how smart he is. Like, he has got to be up there with the smartest disc golfers, and I feel like he's pretty accurate with how he even perceives himself. He'll talk openly about who the best players are right now, and I don't think he takes in much bias like towards himself. I think he's pretty objective, and I think I would have said he was going to lean into this A to A minus. I would have been there. It's unfair for me to see it now, as you said, Evan, but I think that's what I'd give him as well. Probably an A minus, what he gave himself. So
I think that if I would have texted him, he would have given himself like a C or a D.
We should have.
And I think if you texted him, he would have given himself like an objective. Oh yeah, this is what it is for sure. But if I was texting him, he'd be like, "Oh, dude, my season sucked, dude. I missed all my putts every time, dude."
I wonder, that would have been a fun. I don't know how we could have done that, because he would have been like, "Why is everybody texting me?" But it would have been fun to figure that out. All right, so what do you got for us next?
Let's go to the big one. Kristen Tatar. She had 9 elite and major wins from 15 events. 11 of those are podiums and top 10 in every single one. But she won the Grand Slam. That's the biggest headline. But she did in her last 2 events. I'm including Throw Pink in here because that's essentially elite or major level, but not the official tour. She doesn't win her last 2 events. And let me scroll real quick.
Let me text Kristen and see what she rated. No, okay.
She never went more than 2 elite or major events this year without winning, which feels that's like too good to be true. But that is what I'm looking at here. So wins the Grand Slam, but ends it. I don't want to say sour note, but it feels like a little bit of a sour note.
I think she feels like it's a little bit, but she's also saying that like she accomplished her goals that she came to do. I think because of the ending, she might be inclined to say like, oh, maybe an A, but then I think she would do like what she's been doing in her post and say, no, but I've accomplished all my goals. And I think she has to give herself an A plus. So that's what I'm saying. She would give herself A plus. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, unprecedented. I shouldn't say unprecedented, but she did really good last season. I should say historical season. She got the Grand Slam. She did spectacular. She won. I mean, I'd say how some schools do above a 4.0. I'm gonna go with that. I think she's like a 4.3 GPA.
This isn't what you would rate her. This isn't what you would rate her. It's what she would rate herself.
I'm sticking with it.
All right.
4.3 GPA.
Okay, what do you got, Bodanza?
I think it's an A+ all day. I think Kristen is one of the most pensive athletes in our entire sport. And to win the Grand Slam, to be the highest rated FPO player ever, and to achieve all that in the same season where she also makes like $117,000 or something like that and the most winnings. I feel like it'd be hard for her to rate that anything below an A+, especially because obviously this isn't something that she said and it's 100% speculation, but she's probably getting very ready to head home for the off season and just enjoy time with all of her extended family. She just got engaged. So I imagine that it's a time with a lot of distractions where these last couple events would be phenomenal to continue to do well at, but you've achieved all of your goals for the season and more. You're not going to hit the 1,000 rated this season. On to the next. Enjoy the off season. You deserve it. A++.
I agree. I don't think you could do anything but A+. This is the greatest FPO season we have seen in a long time, or maybe ever. People can argue it both ways, but you can't look at the last two events as a grade for the full entire season. Again, this is what we saw, what we would have thought going into the season. She had all the expectations from last season, and she beat all of them. Remember, she only had one major win last year, right? Or was it two? She only played in two majors and won 1 out of 2 last year, with it being World Championship. She then won all 4 majors this year, making it 5 straight going into last year. She was the first woman to win the Grand Slam when there's 4 majors in a season. She did every accolade she needed to do. These were just cherries on top that she didn't get. And I would say she didn't get the A++ season. She just got an A+ season, or however you want to define that.
Yeah, and I just reiterate, someone in the chat said she probably wouldn't rate herself A+ because she knows she could still do better, but she deserves it. And this is my point. The recency is going to cause her that little bit of questioning, but then when she looks at it, she's going to say she accomplished all of her goals, and that's an A+. So, and more, I think, the Grand Slam. So, all right, next player. Let's do one more from each side.
All right, well, that's tough.
Okay, do 2 more. Pick.
I think we need to do at least 2 more in MPL, but we'll do 2 more in both. Because I want to do Isaac Robinson and Calvin Heimburg.
Okay.
And I don't think it's fair to leave either one of them
Player
off.
of the year discussion.
Yeah, let's start with Isaac Robinson first.
Isaac Robinson, what is he going to grade his year? He's going to grade his year in, man, I wanted to say A, the same almost reason as what I said for Kristen, because he wants to do better at a lot of the events he didn't do well, but he has accomplished, I think, more than he thought he would at the same time because majors value. So he's going to say, because of what I've done, he's going to say A+, but I don't think he feels like it's not this, I don't know. It's hard. That's a hard one. He's going to say A+. Ben.
I think it's probably the easiest one we got other than Kristen. I mean,
what is he going to say? You ask him, he's going to say A+?
Yeah, he grew up dreaming about disc golf, being a world champion, and he became one this year. I think, once again, he didn't have to do good any of the other events. He's a world champion. No matter what, he's going to say A+ because he's officially in the history books as a world champion, and no one can take that away from him.
The chat is not agreeing with you right now. They're all A's or an A-. I'm just saying it's not the easiest one, Ben. Come on now. All right, what do you got, Bodanza?
It's 4.3. It's 4.3, baby.
Okay, Bodanza, here you go.
I think outwardly, I think he'd say A+. I think I think that people underestimate his PR skills. I think he is very good at PR. If you were to ask him in that context, probably say A+. But like maybe if his buddies asked him, it might be like an A to an A- because like, of course, he wants to be world champion. Like if I think about becoming a world champion, which is never going to happen, but if I think about it, it's like, it doesn't matter anything else that I do for that whole entire year because of that. But at the same time, I'm not Isaac's skill level. I'm not going into all these other events that you did play. Not taking down the silver over Eagle, I'm sure, is something that he thinks about, not intensely because it's right after Worlds, but I'm sure that there's a lot of things that as he goes through his season, those 2 majors will be able to wipe away a lot, but probably not everything. That he'll say A+, and he'll mean A+, but I think it's probably like a 96 out of 100 instead of a 99 out of 100, where it still skews that side, but it's closer to an A than we think.
I think it depends which way you look at the season. If you're sitting at the back end of the season, knowing what he accomplished and looking back, I agree with that. He might internally think an A or A-. But if you're looking at the beginning of the season and you Isaac's getting ready to play All-Stars, and you say, hey, Isaac, if you win 2 majors this season, world championships and another major, what would you grade that season? I think he would immediately say A+. He wouldn't ask any other questions. He wouldn't ask, oh, did I have a few missed cashes? Oh, did I have a few outside of top 30s? Because that no, I don't think he even asked that. I think he goes straight to A+ if you say he has 2 majors. So I'm going to say A+.
Yeah, I can argue. I'm more in line with what Bodanza said, but I could argue it either way. I feel like it's an A+. If we're grading it, it's obvious. Like, it's A+. To the points that Bodanza brought up, I think he's right. Like, if you ask between his friends, he's going to be harsh on himself, or more harsh on himself, and he's not going to get that plus probably. It's hard, unless he's being that fun, competitive self with his friends. He's like, well, what'd you do? Obviously, I'm an A+. Like, it could go anyway. So, all right, give us, you're going to Calvin, or are we going to FPO?
I was going to say this. I want to do Calvin, and we can have a discussion about it, but then I want to do, like, can we do 5 more, like, rapid fire ones? Because
yeah, let's do rapid fire. Let's do rapid fire. Like, no elaborating, just grade.
I think Calvin is one that you might want to elaborate, but if we want to do rapid fire, that's fine. So let's hop right into Calvin. Go.
Calvin answers with, he's straightforward, and he says A. Ben.
It's tough. He's been so consistent. I think he'd be a little disappointed towards the end, which might skew what his actual season is. But so because of that, I think he'd go A-, just because at the end of the season he still was consistent, just didn't get those big wins as he did in the, because you got to remember in the beginning of the season. You got to remember in the beginning of the season, we're like, is Calvin about to win every single event ever? And then it just kind of stopped.
All right, Bodanza.
Yeah, I think we're all playing a different game that Evan is playing, and I think he laid out the rules, and then we started playing a different game because he's like, what would you grade if you were at the beginning of the season? At the end of the season, what would you have graded? And we're all just like, this is the middle of the end season, what I think. So I think at the beginning of the season, Calvin would definitely give himself an A to an A+ if you told him what he was going to be able to accomplish and do. But playing our game that we're playing, I probably tend to agree with Ben where it trickles down into the A to A- just because he's put himself in position, I think, 14 times this year. Within a couple shots of the league going into the final round, and just has taken down 2 of the events. And I'm sure that he would want to have taken down a couple more of those. But if you ask him, hey, you got 2 wins and you're the most consistent player on tour, he's probably like, yeah, it's an A to an A+ season. If you're playing Evan's game, but we're not playing that game, I guess. Sorry.
Yes. That's all good. We're playing what would they think, and they can think whatever they want to think. So there's different ways to analyze it. I'll say, I think, again, it's kind of similar to Ganon Burr. It's how you word it. If you tell Calvin Heimburg, hey, you're a front runner for player of the year, you won Disc Golf Pro Tour points, you won 2 events, you were in contention at so many, you only finished outside the top 10 once, he's probably thinking, oh yeah, it's like A-, winning 0 majors doesn't push it to an A+. But if you tell Calvin that, hey, you get off to a really hot start, you win 2 elite events and 1 silver, but then you don't win a single event since April, but you're pretty consistent and you're not finishing out the top 10, which is incredible. I think he'd be a little bit more disappointed with his year when you put it in that context. So, but I don't think that I think the lowest you can say with that secondary scenario is B+. So kind of mesh them all together, and I think it's around an A-.
There you go. That is the system.
Matt, did you go?
Yes. I said
okay.
I did the rapid fire, but what I'm going to say is to the chat, you're playing along, but those watching post live, leave us where you disagree. Give the rating that you think it deserves, the grade you think it deserves. All right, let's do rapid fire. So no elaborating. It's just
can't say a single thing but the grade.
It's going to be hard because if you give someone a C, you want to explain why. But let's go.
Nope.
Here we go. No
Can't
explaining.
Explain.
All right.
I'll give an easy one to start. Owen Scoggins.
A+. Ben.
Me? A.
A+.
I think I want to go A+.
Boom. That's 3 of us.
Let's
wow.
go Eagle McMahon.
B-. Ben.
We can't explain. B+. B+.
Bodanza.
B+.
B-.
Oh, okay. We agree.
I almost went C, but B-, which is harsh, but
yeah,
I can't say anything.
All
Not
right.
a heater this last part of the season.
Ella Hansen.
Ella, I'm just looking back at her season. B. Ben.
B plus.
C plus.
I agree too much. This is making it look bad. B plus.
You all said B plus. You guys are all half glass full kind of people. That's nice.
Yeah,
I said C
guess
plus.
so.
Oh, but Dan said C plus. Okay.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah, it wasn't the same. Sorry then.
Like-
Who was I just had? Sorry. Chris Dickerson.
Whew.
C. Intern Ben.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with C. I think he expected to do better.
C minus.
Oh.
Ouch!
I'm gonna go D plus.
All right.
No words.
No words.
All right, let's do one more.
I'm gonna
from
send this to him.
each.
Here's what Evan thinks of you. D minus.
Or actually, no. We started with MPO. I think. Let's do two more FPO, one more MPO. Let's do. I had a few on the tip of my tongue. Let's do Holland Hanley.
Holland Handley. B plus. I was like stuck in my head. B plus.
Yeah, B plus.
A.
I think A as well. Last for MPO, Anthony Barella.
C.
I'm going A minus.
B plus.
Okay, besides the one where I misheard you, I'm too aligned because I go B plus as well. Let's do this one. Julianna Korver.
She's pretty. Oh, I can't talk. I'm gonna say she's pretty realistic. Okay, here we go. B plus.
This one's just a wild card. I have no idea. I'll go A plus. She's still killing on the board.
Can't
Are you
explain.
kidding me?
Although this one's a good one to explain. Bodanza.
I'll say A.
What the heck? I swear this guy is stealing my notes. I'm going A as well.
Usually you're much more critical like you did for Dickerson, and I actually did the last two lower. I'm surprised here that I'm being pessimistic, I guess. All right, what do you got? One or two more or what?
That was it. Although
Okay,
we
that
can
was
do
it.
one or two more. We kind of roll quickly, but
Yeah, well, I mean, we could. We've been pushing over 2 hours lately, and I don't think the show minds. They love it when they get to have more content at work, but you have one bonus one?
there's a lot of ones I want to do. It's hard to choose. I felt like
What does the
kinda
chat
left it
say?
good.
Okay, the chat threw one out there. We'll go with the next two or three the chat puts
I
out there.
skipped Simon.
Cat
Actually,
merch. Cat merch. I'll go first
good
with cat merch. A. Ben.
A minus.
A with like one tier right here.
The tier. Evan.
I'll go A minus.
Okay. The chat didn't put up another one. Did you say one more, Evan?
I mean, there's a few that I want to do. I'll say, let me say 4 and you guys pick which one. There's Simon, there's Cole Radalin, there's Aaron Gossage, Corey Ellis, Kevin Jones, Nicholas Antela, Paul Macbeth.
So the chat
Anyone,
did say Paul Macbeth earlier. They were going to interest in that one. So let's do Paul real quick.
Let's do Paul Macbeth.
This is a really weird season to rate. How is he going to answer? He's going to say B minus. Ben.
C plus. He's a go, but he did kid things.
No words. Stop it. You're fired. Get out of here, Ben.
Bodanza.
Kid as a baby go, not a little kid.
What was
Said
that?
C.
I think you'd say C minus. C minus.
I think I would go C plus. As a human, I'd go A. As a disc golf player, C plus.
As a human.
That's what Ben was trying to say, but me still grading.
Oh, I got you. And then, in all seriousness, we probably will wrap this up. I think for me, the more interesting one out of that list you gave was Gossage. And Gossage out of that list, he's gonna say he had a B plus. Ben.
A minus.
B plus.
I think B minus.
Oh, all right. So that was fun. I foresee that our next episodes are going to contain a lot more of like looking back at the season. I'm sure we'll do some sort of breakdown discussion about things that happened, things that could change, where we're going. Like even news items, like today was announced that House of Disc, acquired or completed or announced the sale, as it should be said, because they said, hey, in the summer we did this, but we're just now announcing it, kind of a thing. But like Discmania is now in that flock of, or that family of Latitude, DD, Castoplast,
Castoplast.
yeah. So I don't see that being any real changes. Yeah.
Did I say that, or was that Matt?
What did I say?
Matt said Westaside. You said Westaside. I said Westaside sauce.
Westaside sauce, yes.
Oh, that's a good one.
So I guess my point is there's going to be news items. There's going to be players changing. I think
We're in the silly
getting
season.
we are without getting too carried away on tonight's show, because we probably have 2 more minutes. 100% Ganon Burr is going somewhere else, and I don't think anyone's really doubting that. There are people who may be hoping differently, but even in the Prodigy collector groups, you'll be like, what are the chances? Then everybody, even in those groups, jump on him and they're like, there's no chance, dude. Like, stop asking. So like I think it could be fun to speculate at some point where he's going. We could have him on and ask him, maybe he'd tell us. But are there other players, right? And that's what we're going to start talking about, looking at contracts that are up, and we'll start keeping our ear to the ground. But other than that, Anthony, it's awesome to have had you on, because I met you in person first. And in person, I apologized to you. I said, hey, dude, sorry, I haven't seen any of your episodes or your vlogs, And you were like, why are you apologizing to me about that? And what's funny is people do that to me. They're like, hey, sorry, I don't listen to your podcast. And I say the same thing you do. So it was weird that those words came out of my mouth. I just feel like it's one of those things you like want to give credit where it's due, and it's probably great content. And so then you came to my backyard and, well, there's a subscriber and a fan, and I'm watching it. And so I appreciate you coming on here and participating in our content. Is there anything besides this next, I think you said 5 episodes, or however you call it, vlogs, or whatever your content release with this distance thing. Is there anything you want to promote with that, or that was it? It's just a tease, or like, when is that coming out?
Yeah, first episode will be Drew Gibson basically rates my form. We filmed that earlier today, and just like an overview of mainly the things that we're going to be working on over the next 5 days. And then I'm not sure how many episodes this series is going to be, but however many it needs to be, to not make it boring, and to also get all the information out there. So those will be coming out daily for the next however long. I'm going to try to go back to daily videos here pretty soon, or at least most days in the off season, just because I know people like off season content, and there's a lot of stuff to be done. So I'm excited for that. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It really means a lot that you guys reached out to do this. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And if you don't mind, we'll probably have you on again at some point this off season. We were even going to even try to bring back a super old segment. It just, a lot was coming together at the last minute with Ben being out and Nick being out. So we kind of audibled, but we were going to do a segment called Judge That Disc Golfer. So essentially we could have did it with Bodanza, actually. Maybe we'll do that. We'll have you come back, but we were going to do it with a live caller in, but we didn't get to it. But we'll bring you back to do that, is my point. We got some fun segments we'd like to involve you in. Ben, is it too much to put him on the spot to ask if he's coming out to the expo?
It's up to him. I don't know. we don't have to talk.
I would probably know if I was coming or not if I got an invite to it. So that would be the first step, I would assume.
Okay.
But, yeah.
All right, cool. Just throwing it out there. I don't know. Ben's always working on things, and it was a good time last year, I'll tell you that. And so
I haven't invited any influencers or anyone yet, so don't feel left out. I'm working on the vendors, then the pros and influencers.
That's why I haven't got my
You only invited
exactly.
important people.
Yeah, we're all waiting, Ben. This is becoming the influencer conference. That's what it is. So All right, cool. So Ben's on the West Coast. Oh, you're on the West Coast too, Anthony, right? California, or where are you?
Well, not the coast.
Arizona.
Oh, Arizona. Okay, yeah, but you're in a different time zone, and me and Evan are on the East Coast.
It's 100 degrees here. It's brutal.
Really? Okay. All right. Well,
Ooh.
We're gonna wrap this
I
show
won't complain
up.
about my 60 degrees here.
60. I know.
I was a little chilly this morning, but I'm not complaining anymore.
Yeah, it's nice. All right. Well, again, Nick's not here, and this is unusual that I'm in studio and Nick's not here at all, like whether he's online or in person. But yeah, let's just close it out. I don't know what else to say. He usually says, here, do this, do that, like, hit subscribe, the whole thing. Thanks to Cosmic Disc Golf. And if you haven't, again, right now, hit the like on ours and then go over to Bodanza Disc Golf. Watch at the very least. Start with the backyard disc golf tournament and then realize how deep you want to go on his channel. So go do that. Anthony's a great guy. Overthrows in the channel. He says, tell someone you love them. There you go. The Nick and Matt Show pins are shipping as well. Disc golf pins. The link's in our description. Go grab a pin. All right. Thanks. See you, Ben. Ben, you're awesome. Anthony, you're awesome. Evan, you're awesome. Nick, if you're listening, you're awesome. Peace out, everybody. We appreciate you.
The Nick and Matt Show, a disc golf podcast designed for you, the disc golfer. Find the Nick and Matt Show on your favorite podcast platforms or join the conversation live on YouTube.